Welcome to The Old World Lives, a Warhammer Fantasy Battles podcast. You can find us on Facebook at The Old World Lives, on Instagram at The Old World Lives, and you can reach us by email at theoldworldlives@gmail.com. And now, on to the episode. Hello and welcome to episode 15 of The Old World Lives. I'm Christopher, and with me this time I surprisingly have, well, the usual two. I got Niklas.
Hello.
And Jimmy.
Hi, everyone.
We're going to just pause for applause, or what are we going to do here? Or should we perhaps tell you what this episode is all about? And this episode is all about, well, these two had a little trip to Poland a while ago, and they're going to run that through in the main topic. But first, we're going to do the usual intro stuff, and we're going to introduce a new segment that we hope will pan out well. That is a Tactica segment.
Yeah. So me and Jimmy are going to talk about our travels to Poland in the second part of this episode. And first, we're going to talk about some units that I love to use. And I'm glad we chose these guys because I actually know something about using this kind of unit.
Longbeards?
Well, that's the thing. Like, whenever people are writing about dwarves, like, oh, how do I build dwarves? Or how do I use dwarves? I only have theoretical knowledge about dwarves. But these kinds of units I've been using every game that I've ever played, pretty much.
Well, when you build a dwarf list, you start out with your troll slayers that you might upgrade some to giant slayers, and then you have doom seekers, and then you have a goblin viewer, and then you add characters. That's basically it. That's what you need for a dwarf list in 6th edition.
Very true.
So, what have you been doing in the hobby, Niklas?
I painted some crossbowmen. Turned out pretty nice, I think. I have to paint some longbeards to get like an actual unit up, but I have to put that on hold for a couple of weeks. I need to paint some 30k stuff actually, but then I'll get back to the longbeards. And other than that, I've just finished Gotrek and Felix, the first omnibus.
Ooh, nice. What do you think of it?
It was great. I loved it. Like, it's such a good book, and I've been putting off reading Gotrek and Felix for so long, and now it's a good read. I'm kind of glad that I saved it. It's a really good book. I liked all three of them, but I think Demon Slayer was my favorite. Actually, there were some really cool moments in Demon Slayer, and Carrick Dome is just such a cool place. But I think Demon Slayer was the best.
They're almost like you're playing a long RPG session, and your character was leveling up and getting on more and more epic adventures.
Yeah, that's exactly what it feels like. Like, you're rolling around like this party, and maybe they're like 4 guys at a time. It reminds me of 2nd edition fantasy role-playing game I used to play.
Yeah, and do you have a lot of books yet to finish?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think maybe I will read the first 3 omnibuses or something. I've been told that, like, at least after William King stopped writing it, that they're not as good. And like, I have a lot of fantasy books to read, so I think I'll limit myself to the first 3 omnibuses, and then in the future, if I get a hankering for some Gotrek and Felix, I'll find some more.
That sounds like a plan. And speaking of Gotrek and Felix, that might be technically news presented during the Black Library Open Day, whatever they had. There is another Gotrek book and another audio drama with Brian Blessed coming out this September, I think it is. Sadly set in the whatever realm they're walking through this time.
Yeah, one of the floating bubbles.
Yeah, but I do think the Gotrek Mini it's a really nice one. It needs some adapting, like maybe change the axe or so.
Yeah, for sure. It's a really cool model, really cool pose. There is some details that makes it look too much Age of Sigmar, but just switch those out. Get rid of the flame on his axe, and it'll be good to go.
Yeah.
You think you're getting one for your Slayer army?
I'm probably getting one for the Slayer army. Might even mod the base to fit a square one and have as a unit filler or something.
Yeah.
And probably that one's going to be modded. So as you said, changing the axe head and maybe sorting what is it called? The Sigmarine shoulder plate he has.
Yeah.
And then I might just get a straight one up and finally actually paint my collection of Gotrek minis I have.
Nice.
Just for your information, that shoulder plate comes from an Empire guy. Thank you very much.
I don't care. It will still be there on the display model, so to speak. That will be painted in 2028 at this point. Jimmy, do you want to go last with your hobby progress, or?
For once, I barely even had any hobby progress. It's been, the only thing I've been doing is small painting on my Warhammer Warband. That's about it. And procrastination, a lot of it.
You're just bracing yourself for the epic hurdle of painting greenskins.
Nah, I'm just tired from painting a lot of greenskins, like from a couple of weeks ago. It still haunts me.
Yeah, but at least you have a few weeks vacation from the greenskin painting until you pick up the works.
Yeah. Like it looks like now, I'm gonna start painting those guys in 4 to 5 weeks. So up until then, it's gonna be these Boardham guys. It's like 5 or 6 models left, but I don't want to stress it out. And I also need to touch up on some terrain that I'm bringing to Finland.
Yeah, it's rapidly approaching, isn't it? It's less than a month now.
Yeah.
Or in a month you will be in Finland.
Yeah. Wow. That feels kind of strange.
That also means that there's probably a game day for 6th edition after that.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So are you guys gonna continue in your Border Princes campaign?
That's the plan, and I need some more territory to take.
Yeah, and I'm doing the obvious thing and shelving the Dark Elves for that one. Mainly since I haven't painted any Dark Elves since we played last time.
They got scared and ran away back to their keep.
Well, their general died, so they're out of the game.
Yeah. So what are you bringing this time?
I'm bringing what I have been painting the last couple of days and that I've also teased on Instagram. So that these can also date when we're recording this, because I'm painting these while we're talking, and these are my Swordsmasters. I have some finishing touches for them, maybe a final highlight on the silver to go.
Nice.
And I'm also working on my little, what do you call it, little pond, little lake, whatever you want to call it. I'm currently covering it with broken up ice.
Yeah, it looks really nice.
Yeah, let's hope it does that when it's finished as well, because you never know.
Yeah, you've been pretty productive. Like, you've been posting a lot of pictures on our Instagram. So for anyone who wants to see this progress, just go into Instagram and search for The Orwell Lives. You can see that, I don't know if we talked about the eagles you made, but they looked awesome.
Oh, right. The eagles were finished, at least one of them were finished when we recorded last time, but both are finished now, and they're up on the Instagram. And one of them, the color schemes, one of them are based on the wild-tailed eagle, or half-sun, as we say in Sweden, and the other one is based on an osprey.
Yeah, they look great. Yeah, I think it's pretty hard to paint animals like that they have like different colors that need to look natural, but you managed it really nicely.
Yeah, the bases are also really good, which ties them together quite nicely, because as we all know, there are really no 50mm bases in any packages from G-Dubs these days, and so I had to handcraft some.
Oh, wow, I didn't even know that.
Especially no 50mm bases in Lord of the Rings miniatures packages.
Yeah, bases are your speciality, though. You're always great at making those.
They are a lot more fun than actually painting minis for some reason.
Yes, because you're crazy.
Well, yeah, I basically have to go out and do the more interesting stuff on monsters and such, because 20mm square ones doesn't really lend themselves to great amount of detail.
Yeah, I noticed that while doing my dwarves as well. Like, I can't really fit anything. I can fit a spot of grass, and that's it. Like, you can't do any details on them.
You should try the skull puzzle dwarves, because they got basically like longer robes or skirts on them. So what you can actually see of the base is like 2mm or something around them.
Yeah.
So that's that. Is there any news this time?
I don't think so. I think like the Gotrek model, is it no new limited releases?
Yeah, the only news we have is something everybody probably knows about, which is the contrast paints, which will finally help Chris paint an army of dwarves.
No, it will finally help me base coat it easily. And note, I actually have owned a fully painted Slayer army that was painted with dwarf flesh, so you know how shit that looked.
It was taking a lot of time.
Yep.
Yeah, contrast paints are really cool. Already seen people painting with them. Henry's painted some Skaven test models for them.
Yeah,
I don't know if I will use any in the near future. Like, if I do like a new army, maybe Slaanesh demons or something, that'd be really nice.
well, they're a tool amongst many, but I think that one is some topic we are going to explore more in our next episode, which is listener questions, and there is still time to send them in, at least for a week after this episode goes up. So send them in to us. Questions if you have any.
Yep, good shout. Next episode is going to be listener questions. It's going to be a lot of fun.
There's also a game called Chaos Bane. I think it's released.
Yeah, it's like Diablo, but in the Warhammer universe, set after the Great War Against Chaos, I think.
Oh yeah, the computer game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Look
I
cool.
only know that it's actually it's a thing, but I haven't really read anything about it other than noticing there was a Slayer on the promo photo on the Warhammer community.
Yeah, I know you can play a Slayer, you can play a High Elf Mage, and you can at least play an Empire Soldier, but I don't know about other playable characters.
Looks like a Wood Elf Waywatcher as well.
Nice.
So the Wood Elf Waywatcher will be upgraded with auto-firing bow at level like 5, and then you can't lose anymore. Or is that just a Demon Hunter from Diablo? Not sure how close of a copy it is. I mean,
Yeah, I've never been much of a Diablo fan, so I don't know. I think I'm going to give this a pass.
I'm gonna give it a try eventually, but I think we'll talk more about Warhammer games in another episode. I know you guys play a lot of Total War Warhammer.
Total War.
Yeah, and I play a lot of Vermintide, and
Well, just a quick one. Speaking of Vermintide, what's coming out for that?
there's coming out 2 new games or game sets. Right now, there's beta testing for the Winds of Magic, which is they introduce Beastman and the Winds of Magic, giving every set scenario you play a different kind of effect during play. So, like when it's the Wind of Life, the enemy keep healing all the time. During the Wind of Metal, there's coming up levitating swords, killing everyone, and things like that. That is like crazy magic stuff. So it's gonna be like Warhammer 8th edition. And they also announced a new variant of playing the game, which is versus mode, where there's 4 guys playing the heroes and 4 guys playing Skavens and Chaos.
Nice. I can imagine you being keen on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna play at least the assassin.
Like, can you be a warplay engineer and just sit in a corner and shoot lightning?
No, they're not in the game. So, but I think Globadiers might be in the game. But I know you can play a
that's cool.
Packmaster.
That sounds nice. And I actually noticed that I actually own the first Vermintide game. I've never played it, I think, but I own it.
Play it, enjoy the story, and then start the second game.
Nah,
Do it.
I can't. I have downloaded a mod that lets me play as Calador in Total War, so that will probably be
Oh my God.
what I'm playing.
You slay everyone.
Well, it takes a long time to actually get somewhere because you don't have access to ports, so you can't trade with anyone except Eathane, which is the proper
Yeah,
name for
I
it.
still want a War of the Beard mod for that game.
Make one.
Speaking of War of the Beard, I've actually started reading that trilogy now.
Oh, nice. Are you on the first book?
Yeah, I just started the first book because
Yeah, that one's great.
I was reading Titan Death and the book before that one in the Heresy series.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. I think that series is written by like 3 different authors as well. I think that the first one is definitely the best one.
It's better when they manage to get the same person to write all of them, but that's not always possible. At least when it comes to cohesion of the story.
Yeah, and just like the way they portray characters, like it seems like there are different actors playing the same character, like when you have different authors writing different characters.
Basically like Batman, then don't keep one for more than a movie or 2.
Or James Bond.
Yeah, but at least then there's usually somewhat of a continuity for at least a couple of films.
Yeah. All right, let's not get into movies now. Any more intro stuff, or should we head on to the Tactica segment?
Well, I think it's time for the Tactica, because the only thing I could imagine is if there was anything more at the Warhammer community, and I've actually checked, so there's no more news.
All right, great. So let's head into some Tactica. This is really cool. We haven't really talked about like how to effectively play the game before.
So sometime has to be the first.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about some units that I've used extensively in this game. Light cavalry or fast cavalry.
Yeah, it's something that has more than one use depending on which army you're playing as well. Giving that certain armies have a lot better fast cavalry and certain armies just have, well, this is operation stand in front of the other ones, but now on a wolf or horse.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say that the different armies like have several uses for the same unit as well. So we have this this a White Dwarf article, right? That we've been reading.
Yeah, from from White Dwarf 280, I think.
Of the Australian White Dwarf, there's a difference. I'm not sure they had their own one though, but this one is actually printed in the Australian version.
This is printed in Australia. I think the European was in White Dwarf 280.
So when you open this book,
279, I think was the European.
So when you open this book, you have to turn it upside down to read it.
Yes.
No one laughed at my Australian joke. All right.
We don't have to. They don't really get them. They'll get them in about 5 years or so, and they will cost about twice as much.
Right. So Jimmy, do you want to talk a bit about this article?
Well, this article.
Let's start off with actually just run through what Fast Attack mean, because it's valid for the article in general.
Oh, very true. Do you have the rule book? Would you like to read from that, or should we just do it? I can do it by heart.
I don't have a rule book here, so.
Well, we got the Fast Cavalry receives no bonus for ranks. Unless it charges, the Fast Cavalry unit is permitted to reform at any time during its movement phase without penalties. And then you have the 360 line of sight for shooting.
Yeah.
What else? And the characters joining don't get that bonus. They just get being able to join, but they can't get any other benefits for being Fast Cav.
Yes, they can still reform being with those guys.
Yeah, but they don't get the shooting or anything.
Yeah, that's very important actually. So I have some comments on this. So first of all, with the reforming thing. So imagine that you can turn them around and change formation as much as you want, but you kind of have a 360-degree field from each of the riders. So you can reform as much as you want, but you can only end your movement within twice your move distance within the circle, or your regular movement if you're march blocked. And also regarding the 360 degrees firing arc, we had some questions about that. Like when we were in Poland as well, that there's this guy that had a 5-man unit of riders, and then he wanted to shoot to side with them, and then he said that he could shoot with all 5 of them, and that's the way I thought the rules worked first as well. But when I looked in the rule book, there's not really mentioned anywhere like if you can fire over your own guys. Like because when it says that you have a 360 degrees firing arc, does it mean that the unit can fire 360 degrees or each model?
It means the unit, and it's only skirmishers that can shoot through their own guys because it's mentioned in the skirmish rule.
Yeah, so in this case, you couldn't fire all 5 of them sideways, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, because then also like if you would have 2 ranks of light cavalry, and then you would say that, oh yeah, all of them can fire to the side, but how would that work if they're firing to the front? Like, because they still couldn't be able to fire through their own guys to the front. And it I know like why you would believe that they could all fire to the side, because it's not really clearly written in the rules. He says that they have a 360 degrees firing arc. So whenever I'm in doubt with rules, I look both in the rule book and the chronicles or whatever. And I also look in the 5th edition rulebook and the 7th edition rulebook, because even though those are like not the rules for 6th edition, sometimes they just have like the exact same wording, but they also have a diagram or something.
Yeah.
So for instance, snaking, like moving with snaking in 6th edition, it's very unclear what that means. But if you look in the 5th edition rulebook, there's a very a good diagram for what they actually mean with this. And the same is with 7th edition, because we have like a debate on like how cannons work. And there's a really good diagram in the 7th edition rulebook, because this is exact same wording as 6th edition. They just have a picture that shows how it works. And the same is with 7th edition with light cavalry. They have the same wording, but then they added another phrase that says, note, this does not mean that you can fire through your own models to the side. So you just wanted to clear that up.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you said, like the reform thing, you can't shoot with a character like fast cavalry. Like it means you can march and fire like fast cavalry, but you can still reform. And I think you can't do this in 8th edition. And this is really good in 6th edition, that you can march up and turn around and be able to charge with a character next turn. But we'll get into that with how you use fast cavalry.
Indeed, we will. I was going to say, this article brings up a lot of tactics and uses about fast cavalry. And it also brings up how to face fast cavalry. Like, if they're nagging at your flanks or whatever, there's some tactics in here to help you face them. And they also bring up all the currently, when this White Dwarf was released, all the currently existing fast cavalry units, and they go through their uses, their advantages and disadvantages. I think we will go into unit basis later in this segment.
Yeah, and this White Dwarf that we're going to reference, just as a note, was released in 2003, so not all of the army books were released for 6th edition at that point, but we are going to mention those units that were later released.
Okay, so
Yeah.
how should we start this? Do you want to go through what the article says, or should we talk loosely about fast cavalry?
We can use the head notes from the article. So we kind of just talked about what, which is the first piece from the article, where they bring up what a fast cavalry unit is. Then it's one of the uses, disruption, break the line. So fast cavalry, they're often really fast, movement 7, 8, 9, or maybe 10 in some cases. They can be used in this way to disrupt the enemy lines, to make them slower by walking into their 8-inch radius so they can't march.
Yeah, definitely.
But we all know it won't work against dwarfs.
Yeah, I would say in this point that they can do this. It's pretty hard to get them there. I've noticed though. Like, noticed that like, flying units can do this a lot better, because you usually won't get to where you can march block until turn 3, maybe 2 if you're lucky, and then the enemy is usually going to have something that protects their flanks. So this is pretty hard to pull off, I would say.
But it's one of the things you can do with them. That's the point of this part of the article. It's one of their uses.
Yeah.
Yeah. So mention other uses just while we're talking.
Yeah, and this also helps to bait the enemy into doing reckless charges.
Yeah.
And like I know from facing you, Niklas, fast cavalry often flee when they're being charged.
Yeah, definitely. They're really good to use bait the enemy to move forward, because either they're gonna stand in front of you and shoot you with arrows, or just disrupt you and hinder you from moving. So you're probably gonna want to charge them, and when you do, they're most likely gonna be able to get away with a 3d6 flee move, and then they're probably gonna regroup again because they're probably equipped with musicians. And when they do, they'll be able to move freely. They won't be able to shoot though, but they'll be able to move as usual. So 2 times their movement.
Yeah. Also, another kind of baiting that you can do is like putting them on your flanks when you deploy, as fast cavalry are very fast often, so they're easy to reposition on the battlefield. And if you put them on your right or your leftmost flank, the enemy will often have to deploy something to meet them up, like missile units or whatever. They need to deploy something, so just to meet them up, so to say. And as your fast cavalry, you can easily just maneuver up into the middle of the battlefield along with your battle line.
Yeah, this is one of the greatest uses that I have for my fast cavalry, because I have quite a few of them, and I always deploy them first, because then the enemy will have to start deploying their stuff, and I know where they will concentrate their army. But it doesn't matter where I put my fast cavalry; they'll always be able to move to the other side of the table in a couple of turns. And it's really important, like, compared to regular cavalry, because if you have your light cavalry on the left flank and you want to move fast to the right side, they'll at least be able to reform, turn around, and move their full distance. While regular cavalry units, they have to spend an entire turn to just reform to face the right direction, and the next turn they can start marching up there. Then they'll have to wheel and stuff. So they're very cumbersome compared to light cavalry.
Indeed, they are. Oh, one thing to mention too, for the baiting part, fast cavalry are perfect to bait enemy frenzied units. Like, say you're facing a chaos army, they have chaos knights with Mark of Corn. It's easy to get them where you want them.
Yeah, definitely. I did this in one of the games in Poland as well. Just put some Ungos in front of knights and then just flee, and then we got a perfect flank charge.
Nice.
Yeah, didn't work out in the end though. All right, any more uses in the article?
Well, we have the assassination, search and destroy. Some people put their wizards outside of units within the proximity of 5 inches of another unit, so you can't pick them out unless they're the closest target. And this also goes for like weapon teams. And well, like we mentioned earlier, fast cavalry are pretty fast, so they're easy to get up, maneuver them so that these characters and the small things like I said, the weapon teams are the closest targets, so you can pick them out with missile fire. But they're also good at taking out war machines and their crew.
Yeah, definitely. So
Yeah.
usually, like you in the first turn, you can move them up. Well, if you're playing like an army that I do, like you can move them up with the rest of your army, and then the enemy has to decide like what to shoot and what to charge and stuff. And then the turn after that, you can usually try and go past the enemy line, because then they'll have to turn their entire formation to deal with you. So then you're in a good position to take care of war machines and stuff like that. I found it's pretty hard though to pick out enemy characters, because they usually put them like between two units and a
Yeah.
bit further back. So wherever you are, you're never going to be the closest to the enemy character.
That's true, but there's ought to be times where you can pick them out. But players like us, I wouldn't put them out in the open, like on the left of a unit. I too want to place them between units, if I even put them outside units at all.
Yeah, that's like reading this article as well, just knowing how to counter light cavalry.
Yeah. Other than that, like a lot of people know, there's a lot of shooting fast cavalry units, and like we mentioned, they're good to take out war machines, but it's not by shooting them; it's by charging them.
Yeah, definitely.
And speaking of charging, there's probably the last use for them, right?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Well, if you charge most things, that's the last thing they do usually, unless you're really sure of overwhelming stuff.
Usually with my army, like everyone focuses the lancers so much that they've been so decimated by missile fire that the only thing that's left in the end to try and charge the enemy is the Ungals. And they usually fare pretty well. Like you definitely need to know when to charge with light cavalry and when not to. But yeah, as Jimmy said, like charging war machines is perfect because they don't get to stand and shoot, because usually don't have any weaponry and they can't use their artillery. And usually the guys that are manning artillery pieces are not the best fighters. There's usually 3 guys, maybe 2 of their elves, with light armor at the most, and just a hand weapon. So you're pretty easy to get rid of. And even if you don't like kill them, you'll probably outnumber them. Because cavalry counts as 2 models, and then you'll run them down because they're usually pretty low leadership.
And this brings us to the next part, the encirclement. Cut them off. Like we all know, units with unit strength 5 or more, they remove the rank bonuses if they charge an enemy in the flank or the rear. And for this job, fast cavalry are perfect, but they also need other units to work with them going in the front.
Yep.
And I believe you've done a lot of things like this.
Yeah, they're really good for this. Also, I want to say a use for this that I noticed in the Bringing Back 6th edition tournament is that they're great for if you ever face like it's a very niche example, but if you're facing like a hard skirmish unit, like Dryads or Mengel's Manflayers, they're great for charging in first to make the skirmishers form up their front against those guys, and then charge in the flank with another unit. But yeah, flanking and like flank charging with these guys is perfect. But sometimes it's not the best thing to do. Also in the same tournament, I charged with some lancers in the front and some Mongols in the rear of some swords masters, and the swords masters just cut the Ungals to pieces, and they basically lost the combat for me because like they can't really strike anything. So you need to make sure that they won't all just die if you flank or rear charge. And also you have to have unit strength 5 at the end of the combat. So if you have 5 guys and lose 3 guys, then it won't matter.
So you need to pick your fights carefully.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a really solid way of breaking units. And it also depends on just what kind of light cavalry units you're running. We'll go into soon.
Yeah. So this kind of summed up every piece of the article. And is there anything you think we're missing from the tactics of using them, Niklas?
These are great, like how do you call it? It's like philosophies of using them. but actually using it on the battlefield, like having practical experience, it's a totally different thing, let's say. So first of all, the kinds of units that you're running with light cavalry, I'd say you would either run units that are just chaff or march blockers or war machine hunters. They're really small, and these are the kinds of units that I've been running all the time. Just 5-man units and a musician. That's it. They won't lose you any points when they die, and they'll just be super annoying. And sometimes they'll kill something in combat or do a flank charge or something. But then you can also have like fast cavalry units that are actually good at fighting. And I think these can be very dangerous. So if you have like a 10-man unit of light cavalry and give them full command, they will never get the rank bonus, but they will probably still outnumber your enemy if you charge like a 20-man unit of infantry, and then you can move these guys up the flank, a full march move, and then pivot them or reform them to face their flank. So if the enemy advances, they'll get a flank charge from a unit that they won't kill that much, because light cavalry usually only have like light armor and hand weapons, or maybe spears if they're more elite, but they'll still be a considerable force to flank you when with a banner and outnumber, can do some damage. And also remembering that you can put a character in there, so you can actually put something that will kill your enemy. I think that light cavalry can be used pretty effectively as combat units on the flanks. So I am gonna build some command for my Ungolds, and I'm gonna try this kind of 10-man unit out sometime in the future.
So like Niklas mentioned now, there are units with different composition of weapons. So you need to ask yourself, what do I want my fast cavalry to do? Elves are pretty much all around, good ballistic skill, good weapon skill. They can be armed with spears and often a shooting weapon. Like Illyrian Reavers, they have spears, and do they have elven bows?
Yeah, I think it is, actually.
Do they have barding?
No barding. No fast cav have barding.
Yeah,
That
you never
defeats the
know with
point of
elves.
being fast.
Yeah, elves and their freaking barding that don't give them any minus to their move. You never know. Maybe magically enchanted.
Yeah.
And then we have the Dark Riders with that comes stock standard with the hand weapon and a spear. So
yeah,
then you add on the repeater crossbow on top of that.
Yeah, so some units can have different jobs on the battlefield, but if you ask me, it's good to stick to one. Otherwise, the points are stacking up.
Yeah. Well, as using the Dark Riders as an example, they're really great because they work great with the crossbows, but you have that spear for maybe like a crucial or late game rear charge, whatever, just to have that little bit of extra.
Yeah. I think the Dark Riders can be used like pretty effectively as an offensive unit, especially if you chuck a character in there on a Dark Steed, because they're weapon skill 4 as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, coming in with a spear, it's pretty good. Should we go through step by step the different units that the different armies have? Do you have one of those lists there in the article?
Yeah, but I think we should talk about how to face these units just a little quickly.
Yeah.
I've
never been on the receiving end too much.
Like we all know, fast cavalry are very poorly armored. It's like at most they have light armor and shield, and with the riding they have a 4-up save. But it's good, but it's not that good. So that, along with toughness 3 on like every single fast cav unit, they're easy to kill with shooting. So if you need to shoot at them, if you have skirmishers with bows or repeater crossbows, use those guys. They're easy to like fan hittar inte ordet.
They're just easy to kill, basically.
Yeah.
Like the thing with light cavalry is that
they're easy to meet up the threat, so to say.
Yeah. The thing with light cavalry is that you kind of want to advance with them along with something else, so that the enemy have to make a decision what to shoot at. They'll probably want to shoot at the more killy unit, but if they do shoot at the light cavalry unit, they will melt away instantly.
Yeah.
Shoot just both with like ballistic skill 3 guys. Shoot slings at them, they'll die.
It's enough. It's enough, more than enough. War machines per se aren't that hot using to shoot at the fast cavalry. Like I'm talking like stone throwers, cannons, and ballistas now. But things like the Empire Volley gun, the Dwarf Organ gun, Rattling guns. They're
Yeah.
superb.
Elven bolt throwers with the alternate
Those
shot.
two. Those two. Great taking out these
Yeah.
guys. And
Guys
also
are making me shiver.
and also magic. They're like pretty much every lore or every army book have this spell which costs D6 strength, yada yada hits, or 2d6 strength, yada yada hits.
Yeah,
And
the magic missile.
Yeah. The trusted magic missile. They always, and I say always, do the job.
Yeah, I can confirm this.
And like Niklas was touching on earlier, flying units. Flying units are also good to take out or slow down fast cavalry units. A flyer will always fly 20 inches. And when they're within 8 inches of the fast cav, they only move at their normal rate.
Yeah, I would be careful with this though, because usually the light cavalry units are pretty good. Like even if you land at the flank or something, or behind them, they can still just stand still and shoot behind them because they have 360 degrees firing arc, so they can usually
remember,
kill the flying unit.
Every flying unit is a skirmish unit, so it's gonna be hard to hit.
It's true. Be wary. I've hunted great eagles before.
Did you fell any?
Yeah, 2 of them.
Nice. So now we can talk about the units.
Yeah.
Should we start with the ones in the article?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Chris, I think you should start with the Dark Riders.
Yep. And the advantages of the Dark Riders, we have touched on some of them before. And they can be costly when you upgrade them with the repeated crossbow. So repeated crossbow basically costs 6 points per model. So you might not want to do a 10-man Dark Rider unit for that reason.
Yeah, they're very pricey.
On the other hand, you do get a good elf on a horse.
Yeah. How much are they base? The base cost?
They're 18 points. Then you got 6 points per model for the repeated crossbow, and then it's just a command upgrade after that. So
yeah, 18 points is not terribly expensive. It's a pretty good price.
A lovely move 9 of an elven horse as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think just having these guys will definitely be a good flank charging unit without the crossbows. But with the crossbows, they're excellent. Just put at the flank of your enemy and just fire away while they advance across towards your lines.
Yeah. And they also got a benefit of a base leadership of 8. So they're quite good in that respect as well.
Yeah, and with a musician, while they're regrouping, it's leadership 9, so that's perfect. Just stand in front of an enemy, shoot crossbows, retreat, and regroup.
Yeah. So sum up: good leadership, repeat the crossbows, and that makes them a multi-role unit. So you can still use the spears for a charge when you need. You can outflank and shoot crossbows and flanks of an army, and hunt characters and war machines at ease if you get them past the main line of the enemy army.
Yeah, classic elves, really good, a bit fragile, but expensive.
Yeah, the toughness 3 don't really help there. So, Jimmy, the next ones are a unit that you want to make for your Kurgans, right?
Oh yeah, the Chaos Marauder Horseman. This is a unit spoiled with choices, so to say. They start out at 13 points each. And they come with a hand weapon and ride a standard horse. And on top of that, you can give them shields, spears, flails, throwing axes, or throwing spears. So you can customize them for your army's needs. And I think I'm going to do a lot of flails because +2 strength in the first turn of combat is nice. Maybe throwing axes too. And throwing axes is, I think it's 8 inches range and +1 strength.
Yeah.
And they're one of the few fast cav units that come with the option of a shield, right?
Yeah, I think it's those guys and goblins.
Yeah, so these guys can definitely be used as a flanking attack unit. And
I think for the low point cost, I think they're going to be like 15 or 16 points each, and that's a good price to pay for a multi-role unit.
Yeah, and it will work well with Chaos, because Chaos is an offensive army, so you want to charge the enemy headlong, and so it's really good to have a flanking unit to help.
Oh yeah, and they're weapon skill 4, initiative 4, so they're really good for being humans.
Yeah, and the flails are crazy. +2 strength and charge.
Oh yeah. So to summarize, the advantages are you can customize them for any mission, and their disadvantages is they're not Chaos Knights.
Yeah.
What army slot do they take up? Are they core or are they special?
That depends on your general. If your general is a mortal general, they're core. If your general is a beast or a demon, they're special.
Because I noticed that was something we forgot to mention with the Dark Riders, which is a core choice for the Dark Elves.
Oh, I didn't know they were core. I thought they were special.
And that's why they're good for the Dark Elves, because they only go up against the warriors or the corsairs. So depending on how you tailor your list, you don't lose any of the special or rare options for making a all cavalry list if you want.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I just want to say with Marauders, they're ballistic skill 3, right?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, so throwing those axes are, I don't know how effective that's going to be.
I don't think throwing weapons get any negative modifiers, just like pistols.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
And besides, they only have like an 8-inch range, so they're situational at best. Just like if you want to use it for a charge or something, just the turn before, throw axes at people.
Yeah. All right, what's next on the list?
The next is the Bretonnian Mounted Squires. Start out at 16 points each. They come with spear, bow, and an option for shield. They can do any kind of roll, like you hear. They don't cause panic tests on knight units.
Which they have in common with all the lowborn in the Bretonnian army.
Yeah, I would say these guys, they're a special choice, by the way, right?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
So I think they have a lot of equipment and they get kind of pricey for it, and they have a lot of jobs to fulfill, but I wouldn't say they're very good at any of them, because they're only ballistic skill 3 with their bows.
But they're a great screening unit for your knight core.
Yes, and they got spears, but they're also weapon skill 3, I think.
Yeah.
So when I played with Hugo, who was playing Britannia with me, he kind of came to the conclusion that Pegasus Knights are just do what these guys are supposed to do, because the shooting, usually 5 bows as ballistic skill 3, is not going to do a lot. So these guys are not super hot, in my opinion.
But that depends on what you're using them for and the theme of your army as well.
Yeah, of course.
And if you're using them just as a screen for soaking up stuff for your knights, they're great. Especially since they don't, as we said, cause panic or anything for the knights. The knights just don't care about them. They're just there to die and keep the knights alive.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead with the next unit, which is the Goblin Wolf Riders. This is the cheapest fast cav unit in the game. 10 points each. And they can be upgraded with spears, short bows, and shields. They can have light armor, but if they pick light armor, they're no longer fast cav. The really bad
Which is just a fun thing to add for them.
Yeah. The bad things about them is their low leadership of 6 and that they suffer from animosity. Otherwise, they can fulfill any kind of role that's needed. And
so after you position them on the flank, you got this perfect flank charge planned, then you roll a 1.
Yeah, and it's bound to happen. But they're really fast since wolves have movement 9. And there's been a running joke where people say that the steed always does better than the rider in Warhammer Fantasy, and in this case, it's known in the stat lines because wolves are better than the goblins.
This is a unit that you basically take to get access to fast-moving wolves and nothing else.
Yeah.
Are these a special choice or a core choice or
core choice? So you can do a whole mounted army if you want to.
Yeah, I rate these pretty highly actually. The wolves are good in close combat. You can give them spears and shields, and no limitations on commands. You can have full command. Just try and charge these into the flank. They're really cool.
Yeah, and like we said, they're cheap, so you can have a few. normally I would have like 5, maximum 7 guys in a fast cav unit, but these guys I think I could go up to 12.
Yeah, definitely. And you could probably throw in like a
Big
a
boss.
boss.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He would truly help them by 1 point of leadership and actually with some fighting prowess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it's one of the better fast cavalry units, I would say. Probably you don't want to equip them with bows.
I will not do bows because they don't have bows. They have short bows.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're range 16 in 6th edition, right?
Yeah, sadly.
Yeah, so they're if you're outside of 8 inches, they're going to be at long range as well. So
Yeah.
ballistic skill 3, not super hot. Skin of spears, charge in,
Yeah.
scream.
Enjoy. Niklas, do you want to talk about one of your fast cav units now?
Yeah, the Ungols.
Yeah.
The only fast cav unit that they have, and they don't need any else because these are the best human archers in the old world. So these guys are 17 points base. They ride a regular horse. They don't have any armor. They have bows, regular bows, and they start out at 5 guys, be unlimited, I guess, and they have a command. So yeah, their core choice, which is really nice. The lancers are also core, so it doesn't really matter. But it's good that you can take unlimited. You're not just stuck with having 3. So the main thing about these guys is that they're basic human stat line, but they got ballistic skill 4, which is really good. I think these are the only basic human troops that have ballistic skill 4.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're just great. Just great at shooting stuff, just moving around, just being annoying, killing war machines. As I said, I've pretty much only ran these in the 5-man squads, but I'm gonna try running some 10-man units to try and actually be like offensive with them. I would say they're a bit pricey. A 5-man unit with musician is 92 points, so it does hurt a bit when they get killed. But yeah, they're really good because they can destroy the enemy light cavalry from range because they just got so good ballistic skill. So they'll probably win duels even though they don't have any armor.
And given that they're one of the few units you can take in that army.
Yeah, you're bound to take some of them.
Yeah, so that's just a nice thing that they're actually really good. Because imagine if they had like ballistic skill 3 instead.
Yeah, they did have ballistic skill 3 in the Empire book they were in the 4th edition Empire book. Although they were a bit cheaper, but like, what's the point of taking them at all? So what's next on the list?
Next is the High Elf Illyrian Reavers, and I think this is a job for Chris.
Yeah, and I'm gonna start off with their biggest downside, and that is their special unit.
Yeah.
They are, on the other hand, quite decent. They come with hand weapon, light armor, and spear, and ride elven mounts. They got the more or less the same stats as the Dark Riders, which is not that surprising, really. Which also sadly means they cost 18 points with a 6 points per model upgrade for bows.
So the bows cost as much as the repeater crossbows.
Yeah, but you get the option of replacing the spears with bows for 5 points per model.
Okay, that's not great.
No, that's an option you can take if you're really, really low on points for something else and you have to save 5 points.
Yeah.
By making the Illyrian Reavers a ranged unit and not a multi-rolled unit.
Yeah, I see people using these. Pretty decent choice. I would say like the High Elves have a lot of different units that could probably fill their role as well. Like the Shadow Warriors are like a good ranged unit. You can just move around freely. The Eagles are pretty good at march blocking.
Yeah, and if you're looking at the page they're on in the 6th ed book, it's Illyrian Reavers, and then below them are the Dragon Princes of Caledor.
Yeah, I know which unit I would choose.
Yeah, and that's the one with the 0-1 choice in between. That can also take a magic standard for 50 points and give the unit champion 25 points of magic items.
Yeah, it's the problem with every High Elf unit. Like they have a lot of cool units, but they're all competing for the special or rare slots.
Yeah, the Illyrian Reavers are also competing against Swords Masters, Shadow Warriors, the Tyrannoc Chariot, which isn't that great in 6th edition. It's not bad, but it's not that great.
All chariots are great.
Uh,
Trust me.
but that's what the Reavers are up against. And even if they were a core choice, they would be up against other cavalry, namely the Silver Helms.
Yeah, they're a really cool unit surrounded by great units.
Yeah, so situational, good since it can make it multi-purpose, but yeah, if you don't find a need for them, they're not really something you have to take in a high elf army.
All right, next one.
Next one is the Hobgoblin Wolf Riders. I'm gonna say they're 1 point more expensive than the Goblin Wolf Riders, but they're pretty much exactly the same. The difference is that the Hobgoblin Wolf Riders have weapon skill 3, which the Goblins have 2 on, and their leadership 7 instead of leadership 6. Otherwise, they have the same kind of choices, really.
Yeah, this is good. Not being hit on 3s by regular humans.
Yeah. So
And also just the position they're in compared to the goblins, because the goblins are with an aggressive attacking army, while these guys are in a more defensive Chaos Dwarf army.
Yeah.
Should also note that the Hobgoblins don't count against the minimum of core units you can take, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to take them in addition to other stuff.
Yeah.
But why wouldn't you in a Chaos Dwarf army?
Exactly.
Yeah, I would say I would almost equip these guys with bows compared to the goblins as well, because since these guys are not going to be like an offensive flank charger like the Goblin Wolf Riders. These are probably going to be screening units,
screening and harassing.
Yeah, he's trying to slow down the enemy while the Chaos Dwarfs shoot them with all their war machines and blunderbusses and magic. So yeah, these guys could do with some bows. Oh, but by the way, do they have bows or short bows?
They have bows.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Niklas, I think you should take the Empire Pistoliers.
Yeah, I had a lot of experience facing these guys, and they're a great offensive unit. So they're armed with 2 pistols, and their unit champion has got a pistol and a repeater pistol. So I don't know if he gets 3 or 4 attacks charging, but they are great for charging. So they all get to strike with both their pistols in close combat. So a unit of 5 is I have to think. Like 12 attacks if the unit champion gets 4 attacks, which I think he does, at strength 4 with armor piercing. So these guys hurt a lot.
Yeah, and they're only 19 points each.
Yeah, so these are great for just the flank charging units, along with some knights flanking, charging in the front, or just riding around and trying to shoot stuff. I would definitely use these guys to try and hunt characters and just shoot war machines. Actually, they don't even have to charge them.
Yeah, because the good part about them is that pistols don't get a negative modifier for long range or moving, so they're always gonna hit on 4+.
Yeah. Do they get -1 for multiple shots?
Nope.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh yeah, because they have like this rule that they can use both pistols, right? Compared to other guys. Yeah. These guys are great. Joseph that I play against usually have 5 of them in a unit, but I don't think they can take a banner though.
No, they can't take a banner nor a musician. They can only take a champion.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like you can't use them as what I've been saying, like having a banner and charging in the flank, so you get all the bonuses. You can still use them as that.
Unless you wanna put a battle standard bearer with them, but I'd see that as wasting a battle standard bearer.
Yeah, that's very true. You can put a battle standard bearer and have a 10-man unit with a character. You could probably bust a lot of units with that.
If you think your army can do without a battle standard bearer, but you want to add a captain to them for fighting prowess, I don't see why not. You shouldn't pay the extra 25 points to go along with them.
Yeah, and I don't know. I usually don't have battle standard bearers in my armies in 6th edition. Because they don't give the double bonus like in 8th edition, and you can only use them for break tests. So
that's why they almost made them compulsory in 8th edition, right?
Yeah. What do you mean almost?
Kinda.
Constantly told like, don't leave home without one.
Don't leave home with the battle standard bearer, your deck of land cards for mana.
And a scroll caddy.
Yeah. And then you have to have the enchantments for the enchantment, for the enchantment, for the artifact that makes your army extra powerful. But to sum it up, the Empire Pistoliers is a fun unit that got its uses, and it looks pretty cool.
Yeah. The advantages are that they have pistols and they're fusillade attack. The disadvantage is leadership 7, no option for musician, and their special choice. So they are competing a lot with great swords, cannons, and mortars.
Yeah, and it's a rare army where you won't take great swords, cannons, or mortars.
Yeah, I would say take at least one of these units in your Empire army. They're great.
Which is why I probably will take one, because I got the plans for a Empire force in the future.
You're gonna have like 200 points of every army at the end, Chris.
Yes. I've almost painted. Well, I painted. Currently, actually, have painted more than 200 points of high elves. So, ha.
All right.
So, what else do we have? We have flesh hounds, Jimmy.
Oh yeah, 16 points each, and they're nice. They have fear, which is really good to use in 6th edition. They do suffer from demonic instability, so but they are also immune to psychology, so they can't flee, and they can't flee as charge reaction, so that's a bit of a downside. They're easily to bait because they're frenzied, but they do get 2 attacks each, strength 4, so that's really good. And they do have this, like we said, a demonic save, so it's a 5+ ward save against non-magical attacks.
And since we mentioned that the one good way of killing fast cav was magic missiles.
Yeah,
These
they're
are
extra good.
followers of Khorne, or made by Khorne.
Yeah, so they have magic resistance too. So they're gonna get some extra saves. Oh well, not extra saves, some extra dice against those spells.
Yeah, so it's probably a good thing because to balance out that little. Oh, they have been chasing the enemy fast cav for the entire game. So at least they can't kill him with spells.
Yeah, more often than not they actually will. It depends on if the enemy bait out your dice on other stuff. Anyway, these guys, they are they do not count towards the minimum core unit requirement. And if you're playing a mortal or a beast army, they're special choices.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
say these are great for flank charging. Or just screening.
Yeah. And their advantages: magic resistance and frenzy. Disadvantages are frenzy, and they don't count as core.
Yeah,
well,
but
core, the minimum core.
Yeah, and that's something we saw with the Hobgoblin Wolf Riders as well.
Yeah.
So let's follow these up with a second set of wolves then.
Yeah.
And these are great to be killed with a melee attack by a Dark Elf Sorceress. And these are the Undead Direwolves.
Also a cheap unit, but they're not true cavalry.
No. And well, 10 points, and they cause fear. But that's because they're undead, basically. And since they're undead, you can't march outside of 12 inches of the general.
Yeah, and you can't flee as a charge reaction.
No.
Yeah, I know Krell loves these guys. I guess like you have to focus so much attention on the zombies and skeletons marching towards you. You don't usually have enough units to focus on just some wolves running on the side, and then eventually they'll get to your lines unmolested.
Another thing that's great to kill these with is a flank charge with Inner Circle Knights. They just ride through them. But they also have a little bonus on their charge because they get +1 strength when they charge.
Yeah, the slavering charge.
Nice.
So you got advantages, low points cost, cause fear, a slavering charge. Great, because that +1 strength. But you only have they only really do work as one thing because they have no shooting. And you can't.
You have to have them within your general to march.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they lack most of the charge reactions, other than die, basically.
Yeah, I think we have 3, maybe 4 units left to talk about. We have the Wood Elves, we have 2 units from those guys, we have the Demonettes and Seekers, and we actually do have Dogs of War Light Cavalry.
All right. But let's start with the demons, I think. That's not only because I have them in front of me on my screen while we're talking.
Yeah, I'm holding the book in front of me here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're swift and deadly. 30 points each.
Yeah, mounted demonettes.
Yeah. So these guys are they kind of only have one role, but they do it really good.
Yeah, I just want to say though that these guys, if you're like, what, mounted demonettes? Were they in this edition? They were released in the Storm of Chaos book for.
Yeah, and they're in the Chaos list for that one. So.
Yes, and they can be used for regular Horse of Chaos as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and Beast of Chaos.
True, and they got one thing that's almost makes them stand out against all of the other fast cav, and that is that they can lick people to death.
So they are the fastest fast cav unit in the game. They have movement 10.
Yeah. They also got the leadership 9 as base.
No, 8. Leadership 8.
The
riders, it says 8 here in my.
Yeah, in my version of Storm of Chaos, that's 9.
Maybe I have the White Dwarf version.
Yeah, because they got both the Mount and Demonette got a leadership 9 in Storm of Chaos.
I'm switching book. Great to be on the same page, everyone.
Yeah, they're high movement, high leadership, but they're also freaking 30 points per model.
Yeah, and the tongue attack that we've talked about is attacks from the Mount count as poisoned attacks. In addition, the Mount always strikes first in close combat, even against a charging enemy.
Always strike first is pretty scarce in this edition as well.
Yeah, it's not like half of all of the units in 8th.
Yeah, all the L's.
And if an opponent has the same ability, resolve the strikes in initiative order. If these are the same, roll a d6 to see who strikes first. And that is only applicable to the Mount, not the Demonette. And they also got the Aura of Slaanesh, that's in the Horse of Chaos book.
Yeah, which gives enemy units in base contact a -1 to their leadership.
Yeah, that's just so nice.
Yeah, they're demonic as well, so they cause fear.
Yeah.
And the riders themselves are not bad either. The weapon skill 4, strength 4, toughness 3, initiative 5, and 2 attacks.
Yeah.
These guys come in and do a lot of damage, and they cause fear, so they might break you. And they're super fast. Like they have everything, but they are 30 points per model.
Yeah, but on the other hand, depending on how you want your demon army to be, they're a really nice addition.
Yeah, I would definitely like to have some if I had a Slaanesh army.
Yeah, and they are core units in demon armies, so that's nice.
Yeah, and in the Storm Chaos list, there's the Mounted Demonettes and the Flamers. That's basically what's the core unit. So it's not that hard to fit them in either.
Yeah.
Obviously, other than the regular Demonettes and stuff like that, but if you just look what's new in the Storm of Chaos list.
Yep, really cool, awesome, but expensive.
Yeah, another expensive unit. I'm gonna jump. So, before we jump to that, the advantages of these guys, they're really fast. They do have Demonic Ward. The Demonic Ward is also a disadvantage against shooting attacks, and they don't have any shooting attacks themselves. No, not shooting attacks from earlier. The Demonic Ward doesn't work against magical attacks. Sorry.
And you can also take these in the Cult of Slaanesh Dark Elf lists from Storm of Chaos.
Yeah. So next unit should be the Glade Riders from the Wood Elves.
Yeah.
They're expensive, if you ask me.
Yeah,
They're core unit, 24 points apiece. They come
Ooh.
with a spear and a longbow. They can have full command, but that's it. No other extra stuff.
yeah, and they're got a 5 to 10 limitation instead of a 5+ as most other units.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are really cool. I would say these are really good, like compulsory core choice for Wood Elves.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the models, I love them. Too bad they don't sell them anymore.
Yeah.
I faced some of these guys, a full 10-man unit with command, and I mean, if you chuck a character in there, they're a really good unit, really versatile as well. And if you don't want to use them to charge, you can stand and shoot with bows.
And they still have that little special Wood Elf rule, don't they?
Yeah, I was thinking of that you can move without getting a penalty to shooting, right? Was that the one you were thinking of?
Just keep talking about them, and then I'm gonna check the rule I'm thinking of.
But yeah, I think that is what I had to say about these guys actually. But 24 points. So the other elf riders were the same points cost pretty much.
I'm gonna confirm this. Yes, they don't get any negative modifier from moving with the Wood Elf longbows.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And the fact is, they seem expensive, but if you want Dark Riders or Illyrian Reavers with a ranged weapon, they cost the same. The only thing you're missing is the light armor.
Yeah, greatest score choice for sure.
Oh yeah.
So next in the Wood Elf list,
that's what are they called again?
Wild Riders.
Yes. And
Wild
those guys are wild.
Kernus.
I'm trying to find them in a book.
Yeah. Well, they are better versions of the Blade Riders.
Yeah,
They're
they're 2
very
points.
aggressive.
Yeah.
Fast cavalry unit.
Yeah, but they don't have any shooting. They're 26 points apiece, and they have light armor and spear.
Yep.
They can have a musician for free. Oh my god!
No, they can't have. They have to have. They must upgrade one Wild Rider.
And they can have a magic banner. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, these guys are really good, and they cost fear on the charge, right?
I think so. I'm gonna look up the page for all their rules.
Yeah,
that's sure what I'm trying to do as well.
They have a list of rules.
Yeah, they have a lot of rules. I think they have 2 attacks as well. You just want to say that in 6th edition they had some models for them. They were basically horses with some armor on their heads and some cool riders. And then for 8th edition they released the Wild Riders that were riding on stags. They're really cool, or deer, whatever.
These are the first ones I've actually thought of having. I just had a thought of, I should have opened Army Builder and just listed these ones in so I can see the special rules easily.
Yeah, they have the Wild Hunt.
Yeah.
The Wild Hunt, which gives them they cost a sphere when they charge. They have the Talismanic tattoos, which
that
give
is
them
6+ ward and resistance 1.
Yeah, and do they have the Fear of Kernels too?
Yeah, +1 attack.
Yeah.
When they don't charge.
Wow.
Yeah. So if they charge, they get attack. If they don't charge, they get a +1 attack. So
these guys are crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's quite good when they're getting stuck in combat.
Yeah, these guys are really good. Really offensive cavalry.
And we did mention the Wild Hunt, right?
Yeah.
With the causes fear until the start of the next Wood Elf turn.
Yeah, so like these guys are so good in assault in charging that usually when we mention light cavalry, we're like, oh yeah, these are good for flank charging. But I think these guys would be able to pull off just frontal attacks.
Yeah.
And these are like the most hard-hitting unit in the Wood Elf army.
Yeah, so them being a special unit, I don't think that's a disadvantage. You will take these guys.
Perhaps we should mention the Forest Walker rule as well, if we haven't.
Yeah, go ahead.
which is all models in the Wood Elf army except flyers using their flying movement may ignore movement penalties for moving through woods.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, that makes up a lot of these points, high point costs for them.
Yeah, and it also makes up for a lot of the lack of any kind of armor for them.
Yeah.
At least for the Glade Riders and the lesser armor for these.
And aren't Wood Elf players allowed to put out the forest on their own somewhere on the battlefield?
Yes, in pitch battles they are.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so these guys are just great for, you put them in a forest, and then you can pivot them wherever you want for a turn and be able to charge out without any penalties.
Yeah, and the restrictions of the woods is that it has to be no larger than 6 inches in diameter, anywhere in his half of the table for the wolf player.
Yeah.
Which is great because you do after a roll for table size, but before any units have been deployed. So you can put it wherever you want.
So going for advantages and disadvantages. Their advantages are they have a lot of cool special rules. They are the only fast cav unit in the game that can have a magic banner.
Yeah.
Yeah, the disadvantage is it's kind of a one roll unit like with the wolves. They can
Yeah, but
only
they are
do the fighting thing, but they have
as long as
they are really good at what they do.
yeah, given that well, they have probably a lack of durability in the long run, but since as long as the musician is alive, they cause fear. They get the +1 attack in a prolonged combat, as long as they don't, or even when they don't charge. So if they get charged, they get that. And you can just run them straight through a wood if you want to, and attack someone unsuspecting in the flank or rear.
And these are pretty much the only real offensive unit in the Wood Elf army.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love these guys. They're great.
So the last unit we're going to talk about is going to be the light cavalry unit from the Dogs of War army. They start at 11 points apiece.
I'm sorry, I just checked the banners for the Wood Elves because you had a 50-point limit there, and you can get a banner that forces the enemy to roll 1 let's die when fleeing.
Wow.
Yeah, that's great.
And you can also make them unbreakable if you want to, but that's not really that good. The distance at which enemy models are prevented from marching by this unit is increased from 8 to 12 inches. That's another one. Yeah. That just makes them even more versatile if you want to use them. But they're special choice, so they do compete with other stuff.
I know a guy in town who's starting Wood Elves, and I think he will use these guys.
He should.
Of course he will, if they're that good.
I need to get more fanatics.
Yeah. So, sorry that I interrupted you.
So,
start again.
Yeah. Back to the light cavalry from the Dogs of War army list. They start at 11 points apiece. They have the normal human stat lines. They ride normal horses. They come with a hand weaponlet first. They can have a spear for 1 point, a bow for 4 points, or a shield for 2 points apiece. So they're kind of like the most basic of the basic light cavalries in the game.
Yeah, I really like these guys because they're like the Bretonian mounted yeomen, but you don't have to take a bow.
Yeah, exactly.
So they can either be used as just hand weapon and shield maybe, or just hand weapons and to just march block people, or just bows if you have a more static army and just kind of do what the hobgoblins did, or you can give them spears and shields to try and flank charge stuff. So yeah, I really like them. They're really versatile.
Oh yeah. So I don't think we missed any unit in the game now. No.
Well, the dwarves don't really have any, so.
And nor does the Skaven.
Nor, well, the mounted bowmen for Tomb Kings aren't really fast cav either.
Oh yeah, they are. We need to talk about those guys. I totally forgot about the Tomb Kings.
Oh yeah,
that's quite common, I think.
Oh god.
Yeah, all their cavalry is light cavalry, right?
Yeah, I think so.
It's good that we remembered it before we.
Yeah.
Someone probably screaming at us like, "What about the Tomb Kings?" Yeah, can remember the stats.
Skeleton light horsemen, 14 points. They got a hand weapon and bow. They can get a full command. They got a whopping leadership of 5.
Yoo-hoo! But they're undead.
Yeah, and that's negated with other rules the Tomb Kings have as well, isn't there? And they are fast cav, so they're basically a 14-point.
Can they have spears?
No, they
No,
just
they
have.
can't.
They can only have a command upgrade.
Both. Yeah.
Right. Well,
So-
the thing about these is because they're light cavalry, you can move up and then you can reform, and then the Tomb Kings have their incantations. They can let them charge again.
Yeah.
So you can
or
very
shoot
quickly get a
again.
flying charge. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the thing about these guys is also when they shoot, they have a ballistic skill too because they're skeletons, but they also have arrows of the asp, so they always hit on a 5+. Always.
Yeah.
So you're never gonna get any negative modifiers, and like Niklas said, along with the incantations, you can do a lot of fun stuff with these guys. The other skeleton unit wasn't a fast cav unit, so we won't talk about
That's
those.
a heavy cav unit. But given Tomb Kings, they do. If you want to play with special characters, you can do the addition of the Khalida, which is the Tomb Queen of the Eastern Deserts, beloved of the Asp goddess, murdered by Lamia, wasn't she? Something like that. But she do have a blessing of the Asp, which is unit of skeletal bowmen, skeletal light horsemen, and charge in the army that includes Queen Khalida may be given the blessing of the Asp at the cost of 2 points. So all shooting by these points counts as poison attack. So that's the way you do it, basically.
Nice.
And well, she's 420 points, so
Yeah. Bit pricey for cool arrows.
that's just one of her 7 special rules. She's also flammable, so and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Oh,
7,
guys.
8.
Guys,
You
10.
find another one?
the skeleton chariots are fast cavalry.
Oh yeah, that's
Ooh.
true. Yes, they can also reform.
Yeah.
Do shit.
So
Yeah, that's a really good thing for them.
yeah. So the chariots, they form up units. They do D3 impact hits instead of D6 impact hits. And they have a unit strength of 3 per model instead of 4. But as they're units and they're fast cav, they can move around really, really quickly. And most often than not, I think you will have your general along with a unit of these, because Tomb Kings in chariots is the shizness.
Yeah, these
Yeah.
guys are really cool.
Unless you add Cetra to them, because then they don't no longer count as fast cav.
That's true.
But that's also the light chariot don't really have the same impact as a regular chariot, so that's a good thing. Because if you want to change the play style of the chariots in that unit,
So the strengths of the skeletal bowmen are the arrows of the asp, and that they can use incantations on them. The negative thing is that they can't march outside the vicinity of the general, like with all undead things. And it's kind of the same negative things about the chariots, unless you do put your general along with them. But the strengths of the chariots are their toughness 4, so they're the toughest fast cav in the game. They have 3 wounds each and 5+ armor save, I think. Or it might be a 4+, I don't know. Can't see it here really. Follows the same rules for chariots, so I'm gonna say it's 4+, unless they mention something else down in the army list. It's 5+. It's 5+. It says so in the army list section.
Yeah, but as we said, when it comes to Tomb Kings, a lot of how you play or your play style is determined with what kind of characters and, in some cases, special characters you want to use, because they do change the play style a lot for the army.
Oh yeah. Also, chariots do come with bows and spears.
And one little last tip here: if you face Tomb Kings, bring flaming weapon.
And this will scrolls.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, another note on chariots. If your army is led by a Tomb King, they are court choice. If it's led by a Tomb Prince, they are special choices instead.
Yeah, I think
So,
that's all the light
yeah.
cavalry in the game, right?
Yeah, I think so.
If there's one we missed, well, write in and tell us about it, and then we just bring it up in the next episode. So, no, nothing more to do than that.
Yeah. Hope you enjoyed this Tactica segment, and yeah, hopefully we'll do some more in the future.
Oh yeah.
So and now should we head into the next segment with me and Jimmy and a guest that we have on to talk
Ooh,
about
yeah.
our trip to Poland.
Yeah. Their part of the story is more, shall we say, complete than mine, because I'm
Coherent.
jumping. Yeah, because I'm jumping back and forth a lot. So bear with me.
You and your masters are desiccated relics of a dead age. And what greater prospect do I have in Nagisha's service, a future of mindless servitude in an unchanging world? The great necromancer is a selfish child. Though assured of his power, he remains forever terrified that another will take it from him. He will not be satisfied until his is the only will in existence, for only then can he be safe. Heinrich Kemmler, talking to his nemesis Harkon the Black.
Welcome to this segment of the episode where we're going to talk about our trip to Poland.
Yeah.
So it's me, Jimmy, and Hugo. So Hugo was my partner for this double tournament that we went to in Poland, in Warsaw.
Yep.
Been a couple of weeks since we went there. In the meantime, I've been to Poland again, actually, for a wedding this time. But I think we'll remember roughly what happened over. So we've been preparing to go for this for a couple of months, I think.
Yeah.
And I got Hugo as my teammate. So Hugo used to be at my old game club back in Sweden before I moved in Sweden, actually. So we known each other for a while. Mostly played 40k back in the day, though.
Niklas actually introduced me to the tournament shortly before I was going to go to London to play in the other tournament, the other 6th edition tournament. And I wasn't sure about the dates. I wasn't sure I could make it. So I was like, yeah, we'll see. And then we played at the London tournament, and it was so great. I think he was on the metro on the way back to his house. I told him, like, yeah, okay, we're going. Like, I'm in.
Yeah, it was it's a great tournament back in London, and yeah, we got hooked. We actually we used to play a couple team tournaments together in 40k, and fantasy was always my secondary game back then. But I know that you played a lot of fantasy back in the day, right?
I did, yeah. I mean, I think it's probably been 90% of my wargaming life has probably been fantasy. I picked it up in very, very late 5th. I remember my first wargaming miniatures ever was a box of Lizardmen Sorai for my 6th birthday, and back then obviously I didn't understand the rules, so I just painted them like the Power Rangers and moved them around a table. But yeah, I did play a lot in 6th. And then when I was a bit older in 7th, I would play a lot of tournaments.
Yeah. And Jimmy, you went there with your girlfriend.
Yeah, I did. First, I was supposed to go with you because you hooked me into this. And when you told me you were going with Hugo, I was like, damn, I'm without a teammate. And I looked everywhere at home because as I was going to a tag team tournament in Poland, and I really want to play with someone I know. And everyone I talked with at home was like, no, I don't want to go. No, I can't afford it. Yada, yada, yada. Always excuses. And then at home, my girlfriend was like, I can go with you. And then I had to start playing a lot of games with her, so she got into the rules. And it took about a month. And for being someone who played the game for only a month, she's doing really great.
Yeah, she hadn't played at all before?
No, never.
That's great.
So it was fun to bring her along. She certainly did like it there. She told me after the tournament that I never really thought it was gonna be this fun, and I hope she'll join in for another tag team tournament there.
This is her first tournament ever?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
I think we had about 6 or 7 trial games before going.
That's great.
Yeah.
So before this tournament, Andre came to London actually to visit me, and we played a couple of games. And I was like, "Oh shit, these guys mean business. I think this Polish tournament is going to be pretty hard." Not gonna be as like
Yeah.
casual as the London events I've been to. So I told you actually, like, yeah, you may
Yeah,
think
and
this
I was
might
so
be pretty
scared.
harsh.
Yeah, I was so scared. I had to talk to the host. Like, dude, is it this hard? No, it's chill, man. It's chill. and it totally was. I liked how variable the gaming how everyone gamed. There certainly was those hardcore gamers, but it was a lot of fun players.
Yeah. Yeah, I was also kind of expecting it to be pretty harsh, and also Hugo, living in Poland, told me that like he's been to some other wargame tournaments like Lord of the Rings, and there's like a big mix, but people can be pretty competitive. But I was like, I'm going with Hugo. We used to play games. I know Hugo can play competitive. Like we used to play competitive 40K way back. So I thought it was gonna be fine. And then I went there a couple of days early to Hugo in Poznan, which is another city in Poland, for those that don't know. So I went there on the Wednesday before the weekend, and just did Poznan in a day, pretty much, and just enjoyed Poland. Always liked traveling to Poland. And then we went to, like the day before we went, we were looking at the lists that were submitted. Just going through them one by one, and we're like, holy shit, there are some harsh lists in here.
It was fun because not all the lists were like that. Maybe about half of them were like that. But the sequence in which we opened every single list we opened was like 3 level 2 wizards, magic missiles everywhere, bound items with even more magic missiles, 8 dispel scrolls. It was like, oh god.
3 cannons, Hellblaster.
Yeah. 3 cannons, Hellblasters, Lord of Heavens. Yeah, it was a little bit intimidating because we had almost no magic defense whatsoever. I mean, Kislev has no access to wizards at this points level, and I had a level 2 damsel with 2 dispel scrolls. And we opened the first list, and it's like, okay, they can shoot out 6 magic missiles per turn and 2 more via bound items. All right, we're gonna die.
Yeah, and like we were looking at the list, and it was either double shooty or double like cavalry, like ours, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then went there on the Friday. The tournament was on Saturday.
Yeah.
And so me and Hugo got out of the train, and Hugo was pretty like distressed because he'd lost his keys. So he was like pretty busy trying to like.
It was all under control.
And then like I was like, all right, so how do we get to this place? And he was like, oh yeah, we can just walk there. It's in the city center. And I was like, Hugo, the tournament is not in the city center of Warsaw. It's outside of the city. He was like, no, it's not. I was like, yes, it is. And he's like, no. And then he looked it up, like, oh shit, yeah, you're right. I booked this place that we're going to in the city center. Like, oh.
Yeah, so we had to drink beer without you guys.
The thing is, I'm a celebrity, right? So if you invite me to a tournament and you tell me it's in Warsaw, yeah, okay, I'll go to Warsaw. I'm not gonna go out of my way and figure out where it is. It's up to you.
Yeah, but it turned out good because I have a couple of friends in Warsaw. I was like, oh hey, I'm in Warsaw this evening. You want to do something? And they're like, oh yeah, we're actually in the city center. So we went out for a couple of beers and food. It was great. Unfortunately, we couldn't hang with you guys the evening before.
Yeah, but we survived without you guys. We had a lot of fun.
Hope you did. And then in the morning, we just took an Uber to this place. And also, it's another thing I love in Poland. Like the Uber is super affordable. So we got there on the Saturday, and it was a really nice area. Like apparently, that's where all the politicians live. It's just like nice villas.
It was a lot of contrast between the villas because some of them were like, I'm not sure it's supposed to be called a villa. If we say that, it looked more like a house from Mordheim, like old houses, all abandoned, and it was like, wow. And next to this abandoned, broken house, there's like, it was like going in Hollywood, like where all the stars lives, and was like, oh god.
I have to say though,
big. This place is big.
I said it 20 times during the tournament, and I just have to say it again to get it out of my system. The place where we were playing was beautiful, and I thought it should have been one of those barbecue tournaments because they had lots of empty green space, and they even had this little lake. It would have been perfect to have, one of those barbecue tournaments where you take a long lunch break and you just barbecue in between games. That would have been amazing. I mean, it was fantastic as it was. But yeah, the second I saw it, I said, "Oh man, we should be grilling something. We should be barbecuing something."
Yeah.
Yeah, the weather was really nice that
Having a
weekend as well.
body.
Yeah. So we arrived there in the morning. Went into this palace up to where the tournament was. I was met by Jakob, the tournament organizer, who's super friendly. And then pretty much straight away we were met up with our first game.
Yeah. Before we talk about our games, shouldn't we talk about what we brought?
We probably should.
Of course.
You want to
start, Jimmy?
Want to start, Jimmy?
I can start. Well, me and my girlfriend, we kind of didn't really want to try too hard in this tournament, so we just brought fun stuff. And we brought Skaven and Night Goblins. All the randomness in one army. What can go wrong?
All the backstabbing.
Yeah. So with the Skaven list that she played, she had 2 blocks of 25 clan rats. One of the units were armed with spears. Both units had full command. Everything that could have full command had full command. Each of those units had a rattling gun. I know you love them, Niklas. And
stuff of nightmares.
Yeah. And we also brought a unit of 20 storm vermin with the Umbraner. They also had shields. The Umbraner is a nice magical banner for I think 30 or 35 points. It gives
So
the
storm
unit
banner.
No. The Umbraner gives the unit a 4-up ward save against any normal and magic shooting attacks with strength 4 or less. So they basically have a 50% against small arms fire to survive. We also had 2 rat swarms. I also know you love those, Niklas. I know there's people out there who doubt the rat swarm's power, but if you ask Niklas, they're the bane of everything.
Yeah, they're awesome. Like, what? People say that they're not good?
They're great tar pits. People use
Who
them
says they're not awesome?
They're amazing. Like 5 wounds and 5 attacks per base. It's like God sent. I mean, like having five swarms. Sure, they are expensive, but it's worth it. At least if you ask.
Yeah. I could. We could have like an entire episode where I talk about how like awesome rats are.
And we also had 6 Gisales for those heavy cavalries. We also had the magnificent warp lightning cannon, or like the Germans call it.
Oh god, I'm getting PTSD.
Warp-Blitzkanone.
Getting flashbacks from our game.
And leading this force, we had 2 warlock engineers, both equipped with all the things they need to cast spells. So casting warp lightning with 2d6 strength 5 hits, that's nice. And we also had the Storm Demon on one of those, which is a bounce spell power level 4, I think, with the lower version of the Warp Lightning being able to cast. And we also had 2 extra Dispel Scrolls in this list. My list of Night Goblins was 3 units of 32 Night Goblins, full command. Every unit had hand, weapon, and shield, and 3 Fanatics hidden in them. I also brought a giant. I gotta love my giant. He did nothing this whole tournament except for one. Okay, I got to use him one game, but it was a fun game. And I also brought a unit of squigs with squig hoppers. And I brought 4 heroes because for every 1,000 points I play, I can bring an extra goblin big boss or night goblin big boss, as long as all characters are goblins. So I had 1 level 2 shaman, a BSB, and 2 big bosses. One with Gustless Battle Brew, which gives me a leadership 10 for 1 leadership test, and the Madcap Mushrooms, which gives my fanatics 2d6 damage instead of d6 damage on the turn that they are released. So there's a lot of randomness going on in these armies because Skaven warlocks, they can hit themselves with their spells, and their war machines are crazy because they're easy to misfire. but it's a high risk, high reward thing. And the Night Goblins,
Yeah.
well, they're weak, they're cowards. I mean, like leadership 5 throughout all my army. But the Fanatics makes it worth it along with the Squigs and Squig Hoppers, because they are nasty when they get into a fight.
Yeah, there's a lot of solid choices, both for the goblins and Skaven, those armies, I would say.
Yeah. I do regret that I didn't bring my war machines, but I wanted a pure Night Goblin army, so no war machines. I should, on the other hand, have brought a second shaman, or brought 3 of them, because greenskin magic is actually really good. It's destructive, if anything.
Is the Orc Overseer a must in the War Machine crew?
No, they're not.
So then you could
But
still
I don't
play
want-
full, right?
No, because I want pure Night Goblins.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah.
Because,
I see.
the
Yeah.
crews are common goblins.
Right. Okay, yeah.
So that was basically our armies. What did you guys bring?
So we figured. Oh, you want to go ahead? Should I?
No, you start. You got the spotlight in our double army.
So we were already working on a Kislev army and a Bretonnian army, and they were all full cavalry. So we figured, hey, should work pretty well. Let's just go with that. So my list, the Bretonnian side of things, I had a paladin as general. He had Virtue of the Joust, so reroll to hit on the charge when charging with a lance, and he had the Lance of Artois, which gives killing blow on the charge. Then I had another paladin, my mandatory BSB, with the Gromril Great Helm, so 2+ rerollable armor save, a Sword of Might.
That's nice.
So strength 5, and he also had the Grail Vow. And I then had a Damsel, level 2, with 2 Dispel Scrolls on horse. I had 8 Knights of the Realm with full command and a War Banner, usually joined by my general. What else? I had a 6-man unit of Knights of the Realm, Musician and Champion. I had 3 Peg Knights, Musician and Champion. And then I had 6 Grail Knights, Musician and Champion. And that's it. That was the list.
Did you mention your Pegasus Knight?
I did. Like, how couldn't I? MVP every game.
Yeah.
You want to run through your side of the list?
Yeah, our plan was that Hugo would have like the main attacking cavalry, because like I have to swallow my pride to say this, but like Britannia pack more of a punch when they charge, and they can take more punches going in.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I have the best light cavalry in the world, so I thought that I would just take as much light cavalry and some lancers as chaff, pretty much. And then I had like 1 unit that could actually punch stuff. So in detail, it was my boyar, Alexander, with an enchanted shield and a lance and a horse. He was riding with 9 Griffon Legion that I finally got up to like a full 10-man squad now, with full command. And I had 3 5-man Lancer units. They were supposed to be like a heavy chaff unit, kind of. So they can take care of enemy chaff and move around the table. And just bully things that are smaller than them. And then I had 5 Ungol Horse Archer units. And that was it.
And in retrospect, there's a few things I think we should have done differently with the list. We were commenting about the tournament. On paper, we were very happy with the MSU concept of having the 3 small units of Lancers, having 5 small units of Ungols, having 1 small unit of Knight of the Realms. On paper, we really liked it, but I think that I was coming from a place of thinking, tournaments, they never have adequate terrain, and you can just move around freely, and it's easy to maneuver. This tournament had fantastic terrain. It was beautiful. It was the right amount. It was great. But we kind of had traffic jams in a couple of games. So
like every game.
Yeah, it was.
Sounds like my
was,
2 last games.
So I think retrospectively it would have been better if we had taken 2 of those Lancer units and made it into a bigger one, and we would have had 4 big units instead of only having 3 big units. It would have been a little bit easier to maneuver, and then I would have changed a couple of things in my list too. But we can talk about later.
Yeah, for sure. So our first games, I remember when we were reading the list, me and Hugo, I was telling you like, oh, some of these lists are pretty harsh, but there is this like a really cool dwarf list. It would be cool if you guys faced that one. And you ended up playing that your first game.
Yeah, we did. And it was a list of dwarfs along with Empire. It was mostly a gunline list, but they sure had some fighty units. I mean, it was like 30 slayers in the list. It looked amazing
Yeah.
with those guys on the table.
So badass.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it was 8 or 10 knights. It was a couple of knights, that much I know. And we faced those guys first. Really great guys. It was a fun game. And it was a lot of shooting that game because they also had a dwarf cannon, a mortar. I think they had no, it was a great cannon, a mortar, and they had the flaming. What was it called? Flame cannon for dwarves.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think it wasn't a Hellblaster, or was it? Yeah, I think it was a Hellblaster.
Yeah, I think they had a Hellblaster.
Yeah, they had a Hellblaster. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the dwarves had any other war machines. They might have had the organ gun, but I'm not sure.
Was there an Empire army that didn't have a Hellblaster?
True. Which Empire army does not bring a Hellblaster?
Yeah, it's like the best artillery in the game.
Yeah. And they pretty much played it defensively against us. They tried to lure out my fanatics with their what they're called, pistoliers. But yeah, that unit died like turn 1 or 2. No, 2 survivors, but they fled off the battle. Yeah, they failed their regroup every single turn. And that game, the Skaven accidentally got blocked out from my animosity. So I kind of slowed us down so we couldn't approach the enemy in the kind of manner we wanted to. My giant, he died fighting dwarfs. I was like, he survived.
Was it Slayers?
No, it was the he had rangers with the Thane, with the Master Rune of Challenge. And when the giant had, I think it was 1 or 2 wounds left, they told me, you have to charge us because we have the Master Rune of Challenge. And I was like, that was my plan all along. But anyhow, he charged them, and I think it was in the stand and shoot that killed him because they have their crossbows.
Oh, sad.
Yeah, and he's a large target, so yeah. And if he can charge, he's within half range. And with toughness 5, crossbows does do damage on a giant, since strength 4 wounds on 5 up.
Yeah.
Yeah. They also had 2 mages in their list. One using Lore of Fire and one using Lore of Heavens. Lore of Heavens guy always got their rerolls, so they could use the rerolls for the misfire dice. Well, for the misfire table. So
Infamous engineer wizard.
yeah.
Yeah,
And,
classic.
yeah, and they, I think they had the flaming skulls. You draw a line, and every unit that it passes over takes damage. And they tried to throw it every single time, with us thwarting them every single time. It was like no side ever got any spells in the air, which was kind of great because I was so afraid of their spells. Even though they weren't cast on me, they were always targeting the Skaven. The Skaven was the largest threat because animosity always kills it, and it did a couple of times that game, like 3 or 4 times. But I don't care. Animosity is fun. I think my squigs even killed more of my own guys than the enemy because I didn't get to fight with them as usual.
Sad.
Yeah. In the end, the game, we were struggling getting forward to the enemy line. They were shooting at us over and over and over again. Eventually, our rat swarm had dodged all the enemy units, and since they're skirmishers, they can always run, so it was easy getting them upfield. And they charged the flame cannon and eventually got it, I think.
Nice. Yeah, see,
Yeah.
I keep telling everyone, restaurants are the
Yeah.
bomb.
Yeah, they're so good. And against I think we almost killed all the slayers using rattling guns, of course, and warp lightning. But there was a handful of slayers left, so we didn't get their points. We lost the battle, and we were close to get a draw. because I had a gamble. I flank charged and front charged the Rangers, but I lost, and my guys fled.
No.
Yeah, like typical goblins.
Yeah, I had a Thane in there though, right?
Yeah. He had a Thane, and the thing is, he opted using hand weapon and shield on his guys, so he just survived all my attacks, struck back, killed enough goblins. I think I lost by 1 or 2. I didn't lose by much, but I fled with all my guys, even with leadership 10. It's like, why do I even bring this potion? I always fail this leadership 10 test.
Goblin
Every
is a
single
goblin.
time. Yeah. If you're coward by heart, it will never help with potions. So yeah, incoherently, it was a lot of chaos on our side, and they kept picking our guys off with their war machines over and over and over again. But I do remember how they were like, how can you play with this kind of list? It's so random. How can you win with it? There was a reoccurring thing. People were always like panicking over the randomness from our side. Like, how can you do this? It's so random. You can't plan. Of course we can plan. We plan on stuff.
Plan on things being random.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So it was a lot of chaos. We eventually got into close combat, but it didn't really help out. My units were too scattered on the field, so I should have deployed my things more in the center, I think. I kind of took the flanks in this game.
All right.
So, yeah.
So, what did
I
it end
think
with?
we lost by, I think we got 6 points and they 14.
All right. Well, not a crushing defeat, at least.
Well, the 2 goblin units that I lost, they're very cheap.
Yeah.
Also, I did miscalculate the points every game because I gave the enemies, I gave them the points for fanatics, but you don't give the points for fanatics unless the parent unit is dead. So
I know someone else who miscalculated points.
I did that wrong every game, so our game games could have ended differently if I had done it right.
Yeah. Our first game, we were matched up against Tomb Kings and Skaven Alliance. So this is kind of a gun line, but more like a magical gun line, I would say. So they had a Casket of Souls and Warplock Engineers and stuff, and some Skaven war machines. But it was
it was 3 Warblock Engineers. All of them had the Warp Lightning spell automatically. They had 2 bound spells. One was, I think it's called the something demon, and then another one. They had a Warp Lightning cannon, a unit of clan rats. There were 29 of them with a rattling gun, another 29 with a flamethrower, 10 gutter runners. That was a Skaven's. Oh, sorry, and a Warp Lightning cannon. And the Tomb Kings had a Prince on Chariot, a unit of 3 chariots, 1 Leech Priest, another Leech Priest with a casket, 4 Ushapti, a Swarm, and a Scorpion. They had a Scorpion, yeah, and some Bowmen, yeah.
Yeah, so our plan was pretty much rush forward, use all the dispel on the first turn against the casket, and then hope that we crush them on turn 2.
So basically on turn 1, because we prayed, we thought the blessing could be pretty good against all that strength 5. On turn 1, they couldn't reach us because we didn't deploy fully forward, and they had a wall on the right flank, and we knew they were probably not going to abandon the wall. So turn 1, they were out of range for Warp Lightning. So our plan was, okay, on turn 1, they can't shoot. Our turn 1, we move up, and then turn 2, we just need to survive it, right? We need to burn our scrolls, just try to stay alive, and if we survive turn 2, then, we should be in relatively good shape.
Yeah, and just hope that their Sand Scorpion and the what are they called? The Gutter Runners won't show up and block our way.
Yeah, they were Mhm.
We would just be able to charge them.
I think the Skaven could have been deployed a bit better, because what I was thinking before the game was, wow, they have so much warp lightning, and what they can do is they can just deploy the engineers outside the units and just have them move around, dance around. We'll never get to them, and they're just going to kill us. But he did place all engineers within Clanrat units, so if we could just make it to those Clanrat units, we could get rid of the engineers, which were the number one threat. So their turn one, nothing much happened. Again, they couldn't use warp lightning, and they have 2 dice for the casket. We have 3 dispel dice, so that wasn't a problem. So our turn one, we just moved upfield, and then their turn two is when things were gonna get real. And our plan was basically, if we keep our 3 dispel dice for the casket, that's that solved, and then we just have to scroll whatever else they throw at us, right? So I remember, I think first they threw warp lightning or one of the bounce spells at a unit of lancers. Is that right?
Yeah.
I think they killed like 3 and the other 2 fled or something like that. And then they focused their attention on the big unit of Knights of the Realm. So I had 8 Knights of the Realm with the war banner and my general, basically right in front of a unit that had 2 warlock engineers. So basically, if they got the charge, they were probably going to overrun that and remove a lot of their firepower. So they started shooting warp lightning. The first cast was a very, very good roll, so we scrolled it. The second cast was a very good roll, so we scrolled it. And then the third cast, he got off. At that point, we didn't have scrolls left, and we were saving the dispel dice for the casket. So, we just thought, okay, 2d6, hopefully he doesn't roll very well. But he rolled 11 hits. And I think he killed 7 out of 8.
Yeah, it was a massacre. It was like,
Wow.
all right, there goes our center.
The unit was there, and then 30 seconds later, it wasn't. It was just completely gone. And I don't know what else he did. I think he killed 7 Knights of the Realm, and that's somehow, whether it was shooting, I'm not sure, he killed the last one. So it was just my general standing there by himself.
Wow.
That wasn't great.
Yeah, I remember also that we were like debating a bit, like how we should use the scrolls and if we should save the dispel dice for the casket. I think we used like a couple of the dispel dice before, and then we were only saving 2 for the casket.
We were saving 3 for the casket because we knew the casket had 2, and so if we had 3, we should be able to beat it like relatively safely.
No, yeah, but that's the thing. I think we used 2 for one of the warp lightnings, or like after a while I convinced you. I was like,
yeah, you're right.
And then we did dispel the warp lightning, and then I was like, oh, come on. Like, we have 50-50 chance if we do this. And then you agreed, and then he cast 7, I think. And then you were like, all right, well, since this is your idea, you will have to roll.
Yeah, I remember.
And the first die came up a 1, and then the second die came up a 6. And we were like, oh, yeah!
Yeah.
Get some!
Yeah, so that was pretty much where the good things ended that game, though.
Yeah, and so basically it was our turn too. Luckily, my general didn't flee, and so he was in a very uncomfortable position though, because he could charge the unit of clan rats, but he was either gonna lose to static combat res and flee, or he was gonna lose to static combat res. He was gonna stay there, and he was gonna get flank charged. But luckily, there was a little gap where he could charge the casket and be out of sight of everybody and potentially kill the casket, right? If he manages to do that, then at least he's made his points back. So we figured, okay, that's our best shot. And then we had 2 small units. One was a unit of Lancers, and the other one were 6 Knights of the Realm on the right flank. And we were trying to kind of circle around and try to get at the other unit of Clan Rats. And then on the left flank, we were dancing a little bit. My Grail Knights were staring down his chariots. My Peg Knights were around to support. And so we start declaring charges, and my general fails his fear check. So now he's standing completely alone in the middle of the table with, a bajillion warp lightnings in front of him. and he did not live much longer.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, and then we had like an opportunity to have a good combat against the chariots. Like he was trying to move them some magic. I think we managed to dispel that, and we got off like a good charge. And then I don't know, something happened on the left side that we got an opportunity to charge with the Peg Knights as well.
Yeah,
So they charged in. I
Mhm.
think we ended up winning that combat as well, like against his.
So the thing that was also very scary with this list is they had a bajillion Warp Lightning. They have down spells that were also damaging. They had the Warp Lightning Cannon, the Rattling, and the Flamer. But then they also had the incantation from the Tomb Kings that allows you to charge for free. And that can be super scary with a unit of chariots charging in the magic phase. And what I didn't know, or I didn't remember rather, is that you can only use it on a unit once. But if you fail, you can cast it repeatedly until you succeed. So that was also very tricky for us to dispel because they could cast it 3 times. So effectively, they were gonna get it off, right? So that was pretty scary. But we were able to get a good combat. We paired up the Grail Knights against the Chariots, and then I flank charged with the Peg Knights and got some wounds. They crumbled a little bit. And it kind of looked like we were eventually going to crumble him, which we did over time. So that was kind of the one thing that went well, killing the chariots and killing his general. And then we had this other positive moment where it really looked like we were going to lose, and there was this sliver of hope. And my Peg Knights made this really long charge on the casket and destroyed it. And
the Casket of Souls. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah, and for a second we were like, you know what? Maybe things will be okay. And then they weren't. And then we just got butchered.
Yeah.
I love that kind of sense of false hope.
Yeah. No, in the end, they positioned their Tomb Scorpion very smartly. I think that sometimes when people have these units that have, ambush or that type of mechanic, they always want to be behind you. They always want to be on the flank. They just put him right in the middle of the table. So if he showed up early, he was going to block us. We weren't going to be able to charge the gun line. And if he showed up late, he was probably going to end up being behind us anyway, which is what happened. He ended up charging Grail Knights in the rear. It was a mess.
Yeah, Tomb Scorpion was really good. And just the timing of it was key as well. And I had a good combo with both the Tomb Scorpion and the Gutter Runners. That if one didn't show up, then the other one would probably show up anyway.
There was I think our opponents played the game pretty well, but there was a questionable moment. I don't really know what happened. So so we had 25 Ungol Horse Archers, right? And because they're fast cav and they have 360 vision, they were riding backwards. They were looking back, so they didn't see the castle. So these guys, they didn't die, right? Like they stayed alive for a long time. And we had this point where there were 25 horse archers hanging around, and then one of his Lich Priests, the guy that was I don't know how you call it, the Hierophant, I think. He had he could fly, and he flew right in the middle of 25 horse archers. So he
just went in the middle of our army. Like I don't know if he was just trying to march block or something. We were like, okay, so you just position yourself in front of like 25 bows, and then I just shot him down.
Yeah, he just got shot 25 times and died, and then his army started crumbling. But I think, they shot their leadership 10 and their constructs. I think the Scorpion is leadership 10, so the crumbling wasn't very spectacular. But it was just a funny little moment when this guy literally flew in front of 25 dudes with bows by himself. A little highlight. So in the end, it was a minor loss, I think. I don't know if that was like 12-8. It might have been bigger than that. I honestly don't remember how many points. I don't know the exact points, but it was very hard to score a lot of points in this tournament, to be fair. It wasn't easy to get 20 or 18 or those things. But yeah, in the end, because we got the general, we got the chariots, we got the flying priest, we got the casket. We lost, but it wasn't a gigantic defeat, I guess.
Yeah, and then we went straight on to the next game. What do you play against, Jimmy?
we played against a combination of Vampire Counts and Empire. And the Vampire Counts brought the fast stuff, and the Empire, of course, brought the shooty stuff. And I think they use Blood Dragons, I think. So it was a Blood Dragon Thrall with a unit of, I think they're called Black Knights. Yeah, Black Knights. They had a huge bat. They had some wolves, couple of skeletons, couple of zombies. That was pretty much the undead list. Oh, and a necromancer, of course. And the Emperor list had I think it was a BSB. I'm not sure. They had 2 mages, I think. Of course, the obligatory Hellblaster, 2 cannons, a couple of handgunners, some great swords, and a unit of knights. And our game started off pretty good, actually. The table was a lot. There were a lot of terrain on this table. Big houses in the middle of the field. So there was like narrow corridors where only one unit could like pass through. So it was gonna be a bad thing for my fanatics, but also a good thing in case the enemy wanted to move there too. So I kind of took the right position on this battlefield, and the Skaven took the left position. We should have mixed it up, and because the wolves, they're fast, movement 9. So turn 1, they released the fanatics on 1 unit, and the huge Fellbat took another unit of fanatics, while I think, yeah, my furthermost right unit didn't get their fanatics released just yet. They were walking up the battlefield along with the giant and the rat swarms. The rat swarms were really good. They stopped a lot of charges. They stopped a tremendously dangerous charge by 2 spirit hosts. Oh yeah, they had spirit hosts too. They stopped a charge from spirit hosts and the Black Knights. So
Nice.
yeah.
If
And
you want any more evidence
did,
of how
yeah,
awesome restaurants are,
and they did stand for, I think, 3 combat rounds. So that charge, the next turn, and the next, I think so. The giant were surviving cannonball after cannonball for 3 turns when it was like 2 inches away from the cannons on a. Then he decided to, oh yeah, this is soccer. I'm gonna punch that ball with my head, and he died. Like, he only lost 2 wounds walking up there, and once up front, bam, he's gone. My battle brew did its thing this turn. This time, I did succeed a fear check, so yay for that.
For goblins.
Yeah, I was able to fight for 1 turn, and then they fled. My squig hoppers, they were doing a great job on the left flank. They were hunting handgunners, and I think we shot off like 4 out of 6 knights on the first turn with our Gisales. So the knights were decapitated almost in turn 1. So they were basically useless for the rest of the game, which led us to having to walk with our Gisales, which was like, there's nothing else to fire at. So yeah. And I think the warp lightning cannon, since warp lightning cannons can shoot through terrain, they can see through terrain, unless it's hills, huge rocks, or big rock walls like castle walls. And there were wooden buildings and some rock ruins, and they can see through those kind of terrain pieces. So turn 1 and 2, I think, were firing at the Hellblaster, and eventually we got it. It was like, yes, finally something.
nice. Yeah, because it hits the cannon automatically, right? You don't have to randomize it.
Yeah, because it acts like a cannon, and cannons acts like templates, which hits the models beneath it.
Nice.
So no randomness. And
this time.
yeah, this time. Although we did have a really, really fun misfire with it. We were trying to snipe out a wizard hiding in the greatsword unit, and was like, yeah, roll the perfect range, and now for strength, misfire. So when you roll a misfire, that's the artillery die. The artillery die normally decides the strength of the warp lightning cannon. But as we roll a misfire, we'll roll on the list, we rolled a 5. So that's a good thing, unless you roll badly. Because when they misfire, they shoot at their full strength, so it's strength 10, at their maximum range, which is 48 inches, I think. But you need to roll a scatter die to see where it fires. But we rolled we rolled miraculously a straight line, hitting what we wanted to hit. Of course, they succeeded their lookouts there, so no dead wizard, but I think we killed 4 great swords or something. Yeah, we
Glad
were
for a
like,
misfire.
yeah, it was a great misfire. I think we did it 3 times that battle, and it fired at the enemy every single time. So misfires can be good, but they can be bad. And
Usually bad. You were
yeah,
just lucky with the randomness this
usually,
time.
yeah. And yeah, we lost this battle too, because those black knights with the vampire, they murdered us eventually, and their magic was better than our magic. They had 2 guys with Comet of Cassandra. 2
Oof.
comets, yeah. Although they got it off once during this battle, but like we were super scared, always saving dispel dice for that goddamn Comet of Cassandra. So I think they had a zombie unit that started out being 10 guys strong, ended up around 30, 40 or something. So they kept racing zombies and hid their necromancers in there. So don't take the race spells lightly. You need to stop the undead from racing hell. Allow the comets to come. It's not that bad as long as you're on the move.
Yeah, either they kill your units or they all raise new units.
Yeah.
Or show
So,
up with the
yeah.
army list that everybody else has with
Yeah.
60 spell scrolls and just dispel everything.
It's like, goddamn, everyone has so many dispel scrolls. Stop it.
Yeah, didn't Jakob tell you guys to bring more
Yeah,
dispels?
yeah. He told us to bring them because the first list we sent in didn't have any at all. So it was like, well, 2 should be enough. I was wrong.
Mistakes were made.
Mistakes were made, and I regret nothing. But yeah, my squigs got some action, which is the fun part in this battle. But of course, they failed their leadership test eventually because they lost the fight. So my goblins fled, and the squigs were everywhere. Squigs bouncing here and there, and I really love and hate loose squigs. It takes so much time moving them around.
Yeah, I'm getting the impression from what you're telling us that the Skaven kind of, they were getting stuff done. They had a plan. They knew what they were doing.
Yeah,
and then, the goblins were just shitting the bed every time.
Yep, that kind of sums up every game. Yeah.
Good to know.
Never trust a goblin.
Never trust a goblin.
But yeah, they were still fun. So, like this game was fun, but it wasn't a lot of stuff happening though. It was a lot of defensive play on their side. We tried to get up, and it was hard moving my units around because of the buildings in the middle of the battlefield. So they could kind of pick out what they wanted to fight with their Black Knights and the vampire. And oh, dropped something here. Hang on. That, my friends, is a broken Mordheim model.
Poor guy.
Yeah, he lost his arms. I gotta fix him later.
Just
so yeah,
injury table. It's good.
Yeah. So what I was saying, the knights and the vampire could like pick off whatever they wanted, and their cannons were safe on that hill, so they can shoot on everything they want because the hills were like 2 levels high, so they can see over everything, even the houses. So yeah, I think this game
Charge of the Light Brigade.
Yeah,
charging up a hill.
Yeah, I think this game ended up a little better for us because we didn't lose a lot of stuff, but we did lose more than they did. It was like mostly goblins that kind of died. The Skavens were like almost all there on the battlefield. I think we lost 1 unit of Skaven and a lot of goblins. Luckily, goblins are cheap.
Yeah. All right. So what do we play, Hugo?
We played against, I would say, a fear and terror-based list. It was Dark Elves and Vampire Counts. The Vampire Count player had a Necromancer, 2 Blood Dragons, 2 units of, I believe, 8 Black Knights each. He had 2 units of Wolves, a Black Coach, and I think that was it. And then the Dark Elf, he had a unit of Cold One Knights, a Cold One Chariot, 2 units of Dark Riders, a Sorceress, a Beastmaster or Manticore, who was the general, and then I'm sure he had something else.
A Hydra? Did you mention Hydra?
Hydra. That's right. So
another terror-causing.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, almost the entire army cost fear, apart from the Dark Riders, and then they had 3 models that cost terror: the Black Coach, the Hydra, and the Manticore. So we knew that was going to be a little bit tricky because we're operating on, there's no lords, right? So leadership 8 is the highest. The Unggols have leadership 7. So that was going to be a little bit tricky. There was a very, very big terrain piece, very cool, in the middle of the board. And that kind of divided the tabletop into 2 smaller battles because it was very tricky to get around that big one. So because we had so many Unggols and also small units of Lancers, we basically saw their entire deployment before we committed anything. So our strategy was, we're going to bog them down on the right flank because that's where their Black Knights and Vampires and, all the good business was. And then we're going to try to just swing around the left flank with Grail Knights, Knights of the Realm, and roll up that flank, right? And I think
because we saw that they were deploying most of their stuff on the right side. So all right, let's just wreck their left flank.
And I think the first part of the plan, which was delaying them on the right side, was very successful. Their Black Knights with kitted out Blood Dragons never got into combat.
Yeah,
they just did not get into combat that game. But rolling up the left flank didn't really work out as well because the Cold One Knights kept getting away. The Grail Knights managed to charge them, but then they couldn't quite catch them. That left them somewhat out of position. Fear tests were failed, and units would remain stranded in the middle of nowhere because they couldn't charge a chariot. Fear was pretty tricky.
Yeah, it was like they were kind of trying to do the same thing, just delaying us on their right side and attacking on the left side. And I managed to hold them pretty well on the right side until I failed a bunch of terror tests and a lot of my stuff fled away. But in the end, they didn't really manage to break our right flank either. So it was like both of us had kind of the same plan and both kind of failed, and it ended up in a draw.
Yeah, we pretty much both succeeded defensively because we chaffed the right flank, and then they didn't really chaff us, but the fact that they had fear, it just slowed us down for so long. And also the fact that once we did charge the Cold One Knights, as I said, they got away and they rallied, so we couldn't just turn our backs on them either. We both kind of stopped the opponent. My favorite moment of the game, they had this Beastmaster of Manticore on the right flank, and he was kind of looking at our Griffin Legion. And then I had my pegs outside of charge range of the Manticore, but just kind of trying to keep him honest. And eventually the Manticore moved up into our battle line to force us to take terror checks. So the Peg Knights charged in, they killed the guy on top, the Manticore fled, they overran, killed it, and then 2 turns later they would kill the Sorceress too. So again, the Peg Knights, absolute MVP. I love them, they're so great. And it was a shame because I think the Griffin Legion fled from a terror check and they never rallied. They just kept running for 3 turns and left the table.
Yeah, they were at full strength. They were standing there just waiting for combat, waiting, and oh, look, a Manticore. Oh my God, run! Ran across the board. I didn't do a lot this game. Like my uncles were moving around, shooting some arrows, and I was dueling with his Dark Elf Dark Riders that had repeater crossbows, and he was shooting some, killing some, and I was shooting back, hitting quite good, and never wounding. Like I never killed a single one with my arrows.
Those guys made a lot of armor saves.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it was a good game, like a really enjoyable game, really nice guys to play against. I thought we were gonna lose, so I was pretty glad we managed to get a draw.
Yeah, we basically, like Niklas said, we both inhibited each other, and nobody was able to really, I guess, execute their plan, so ended up in a draw.
Yeah. So between these two games, we had some pizza, short lunch break, and straight on to the third game. It was,
third and
hardcore
final
gaming.
game.
So what do you guys play against, Jimmy?
So we played against a Skaven army, which was almost a mirror of our list. They had, pretty much the same things. Though they did have a unit of gutter runners and a unit of plague monks instead of storm vermin. They also had they fought alongside wood elves, which had a lot of those skirmish trees, what they're called, dryads. A lot of dryads running around. They had a lot of what's the elite cavalry called for those guys?
Wild Riders.
Yeah, and I kind of forgot that the Wild Riders have magic resistance, which kind of threw us off, because when we used our first spells was like, well, we gotta kill something. It's easy to kill cavalry with warp lightning, so we're gonna strike those guys. Okay, and oh yeah, they have magic resistance. What? Yeah, and he had a lot of those units, and they were running right up to us, but casting spells on them barely did anything.
I wish my lancers had magic resistance.
Yeah. And I also forgot that they are immune to psychology.
Yeah, I got frenzied.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, those are really, really nasty. And
they hit like a truck.
Yeah. And the heroes of the Wood Elf list, I think they had some kind of extra shooting thing. It was like shooting spirits at us, and they could pick out heroes hiding inside units. So they killed my Night Goblin Shaman with those spirits. It was like, I can't even hide anywhere. I think they shoot like 24 inches or something. Pick any target, even if they hide within a unit, and no lookout sirs, as the shots are not from war machines. So my Shaman died like turn 2, I think. So less magic dice for us, but a lot more casting for the Skaven. It was like they were shining like hell with warp lightning. But so did the other Skaven player too. It was like throwing lightning bolts everywhere, and it was like scores died every single time. And yeah, it was great, like watching those Skaven armies like pitching it off, and I was like trying to drive off the elves, but I failed because, well, I play goblins, so fear elves is kind of fun.
Nice.
And although this game my giant did something after they killed my mage, I was like, an eye for an eye. So I charged. I was like, I'm not sure about the charge. I don't think I can make it, but I gotta try. My giant is down on 1 wound. I need to do this. So he charges. He survives the incoming fire. Luckily, since I think those guys had like strength 4 on short range or something, so that's winning on 5s. But he survived. Got into combat. So time to roll. Pick up and. So I chose the mage and roll on my pick up and table, and he scores eat.
Nice.
So he ate the mage. He did something.
Nice.
The turn after he fell from fighting dryads. But yeah, he did something.
I bet it tastes like broccoli.
Yeah. You know how Grom the Pouch, he had a troll and he got regeneration, right? So I wondered if a giant eats a wizard, does he become like a level 1 wizard or something eventually?
That would be amazing. I need to start this magical kind of eating thing. But yeah, that game was so was like so random. They kept rolling misfire on their warp lightning cannon. We did it on our warp lightning cannon. For a while, it was like a warp lightning cannon battle. They kept shooting at each other, doing nothing. But when they started shooting at other things, they killed everything they shot at. So if you're gonna shoot at other warp lightning cannons with your own, don't do it. It doesn't do squat.
It only works for Hellblasters.
Yeah. And since they had a lot of skirmish in their army, we were playing on the same table we were on last game, so they had the upper hand, having a lot of skirmish units, so they could move around more freely, use the forest and woods. They could walk around the houses like they were nothing. So the wood elves like surrounded us, slowed us down, while the Skaven could get their charges where they wanted them. So it was a good matchup. Well, it was a bad matchup, but it was a great combination of their armies because they really covered each other's weaknesses. The Wood Elves were fast, had a lot of shooting. The Skaven had the numbers and the shooting, like rattling guns, sails, warp lightning cannons to take out the heavy stuff.
Yeah, it was cool also that they weren't both just like a shooty army. They had some mobility.
Yeah. I mean, like the Wild Riders were, I think they had 3 or 4 units of 5 men.
The Wild Riders are super cool.
Yeah. So I think we lost the most. I think we were dead to like a couple of units. Like I think we had like 2 or 3 units left on this game because the Wild Riders took everything that I got in combat with. I didn't have any models left. All goblins were dead in the final battle. So the Skaven were like holding the banner high, screaming triumphantly, even though we lost, but they did. No more goblin allies.
Ever again.
Never again.
All right. Yeah, and our last game, we also played a mirror actually of Hugo's list. Like you played.
Oh, we did. Yeah. It was extremely similar. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Cool.
as you played the Skaven mirror, Hugo. Like I think like when we were going through the army list, you were like, you came to this Bretonnia list. You're like, wait, is this my list? Are we looking at army? Like, no, it's just almost exactly the same.
Yeah, so the Bretonnian army list was general, the same setup as I had. BSB with the same setup as I had. So what else? A damsel, only level 1 though, with 2 dispel scrolls. They had a Grail Knight unit, bigger than mine, I think 8 or something. They had a Knights of the Realm unit, I think they were 9. And then the only significant difference was they had 1 more Pegasus. They had, as I mentioned, bigger units, but they didn't have that small 6-man Knight of the Realm unit. And then the other half was core.
Which is Hugo's favorite unit.
Yeah, I love it. I love the 6-man.
Pegasus, but yeah, you always go on about your 6-man Knight of the Realm unit.
I like them. And then the other half was a Khorne list, Mortals. They had 2 big fighty dudes on horse. They had 2 units of either 5 or 6 knights with Mark of Khorne, 2 chariots with Mark of Khorne, and
2 chariots.
2 chariots, yeah, and that's all I can recall.
Yeah, so they had like very heavy chaos guys on horses or with chariots, and then Hugo's was pretty much.
Oh, and 1 unit of Furies. That's it. That was.
Oh yeah, and hounds, the warhounds or the dogs or whatever you're called.
The warhounds.
Chaos warhounds and Furies or harpies. I think they're called Furies.
Yeah, Furies.
Yep.
So
go ahead.
The deployment, as usual, I deployed a bunch of Ungolds. We kind of saw where they were going to deploy. And it turned out to be a bit of a mirror deployment. Like we had 2 big fight units in the middle to the left and some flying support there. And they had their, the Bretonnia death trains in the middle as well, with some Chaos Knights on that flank. And then on our right flank, there's a bit fewer stuff. You had your Pegasus Knights there, your 6-man unit, and I had some Unggols in front, and they had a 5-man unit of Chaos Knights and a chariot on the far flank. And what basically happened in the game was that our main units is kind of moved up towards each other in the middle, but staying clear of the 16-inch death zone of being charged. And on the right side, we're debating a bit like how we should use the Unggols. You wanted to put them like right in front, have them being charged, and then they would overrun into a forest. They would kind of get stuck. Well, I championed that we should just lure them forward and try and get a side charge.
Well, I mean, the end result was the same. I wanted to also side charge them, right? The thing is, it was a big unit of Chaos Knights with a character, and of course they have Frenzy. So what we wanted to do was basically to force them towards the left, and then we could flank charge them.
Yeah. So in the end, he tried to charge my light horse. They fled away, and they rallied, and then he tried to do the same again next turn, and they fled away, and then we got like a nice chance to flank charge him. So Hugo flank charged him with both the Knights of the Realm and the Pegasus Knights, and didn't manage to do anything.
Yeah, it was a shame because going into it, I had static combat rest. I had 1 rank, and I had a flank, and I don't think I had outnumber. I think I won by 1. So if I was able to sneak in maybe a wound or 2, that was a good chance that they would flee, get overrun, and that would be a lot of points. I think that would really have tilted the game, because at that point we are winning. So they need to do something. They need to take a risk. But yeah, I completely whiffed. 1 combat by 1. They passed their leadership, and then my units got countercharged by their Pegasus, and that was the end.
Pegasus and the chariot further away on that flank, and I charged his chariot with some Lancers, a 5-man unit of Lancers, and I lost it, and then they fled away. And then, you lost that combat, so they were free to countercharge that and kind of break that flank. And then at the same time, they were moving up on that flank. On the far left flank, I also had a unit of 5 Lancers versus a chariot. And now he noticed that like a 5-man unit of Lancers will lose against the chariot, even if they charge. So he moved up into charge range. And then we were like, shit, what are we doing now? Because like now they're threatening us. So I either have to charge or try and flee or something. So my plan was to charge him, and then I would lose, and then he would overrun, and then you could charge him with your Grey Knights. But what ended up happening on that flank was this incredible. I charged his chariot, won the combat, he fled, and I overran into his unit of Chaos Knights. So I was like, oh shit, well, I'm going to lose against these guys, and they're going to overrun, so Hugo can charge him. But in this next combat, I won the combat and chased them away off the board, including his general. This is just madness.
Priceless.
Lancers on steroids.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
So in the meantime, we were losing the right flank, and they were kind of overrunning there. And we were like, what do we do now, Hugo? And you were like, I don't know. Fuck it. We're going to lose this game. Let's just move up the middle and try and charge them. And then you were like, is this 16 inches to charge their bus with my bus? And I was like, I don't know. Like it could be, it could not be. And it turned out it wasn't, because you had to pivot out of terrain. So it's just barely out of 16 inches. So you were stuck in the middle with the Grey Knights and the Knights of the Realm, like big buses just staring you down. And then they charged with both of those units next turn. And you were like, okay, I flee. And like, what? You flee? Like, yeah, I flee.
And that was so confusing to me, because the same thing happened in the tournament in London in the last game. So basically, I'm being charged in a situation where if I hold, I'm gonna get butchered. So of course I flee, right? Like it makes sense. But the opponent was completely shocked by the fact that I fled. They really, really didn't expect it. So what happened was they were charging the Knights of the Realm.
Well, it was a Bretonnia player charging another Bretonnia player, so I guess they expected you to have some honor. Little did they know that your Bretonnia are based in the Border Princes, and they have no honor.
Exactly. So what happened was he couldn't reach the Grail Knights because they were kind of wedged in a corner. So he was charging the Knights of the Realm, and they're not immune to Psych, so they fled. His Knights of the Realm failed charged forward, exposing the flank to my Grail Knights, and then next turn they just got charged by a bus of Grail Knights. Somehow my Grail Knights ended up losing that combat. I think they got countercharged. Oh yeah. So my Grail Knights charged his Knights of the Realm. I believe they beat them, but he passed his leadership on a 5 or something. And then my Grail Knights got countercharged by his Knights of the Realm. So we had this giant mosh pit of cavalry in the middle of the table. And then next turn, your Griffin Legion charged in. So at one point we had 4 gigantic units of cavalry just beating each other in the middle of the table.
Yeah, my Griffin Legion charged them when, like, after you fled, my Griffin Legion charged their Knights of the Realm in the flank and crushed that unit, and then they overran into the Grail. No, they ran into the Grail Knights, crushed the Grail Knights, and overran into the Knights of the Realm. And then
Yeah.
And then he countercharged with the Pegasus Knights and a Chaos Hero. And I was like, all right, doesn't matter. I got Stubborn 8, and I failed that, and I fled away. And then, in the last turn, I managed to rally them, saving some points.
It's a shame too, because had you passed that check, my general was lined up right behind, like in the rear of one of the units, and that would have given us +2 for the rear, and then whatever my general was able to do.
Your general, he charged out by himself against the Pegasus Knights and managed to kill their entire unit. So that was pretty good.
Yeah, he wiped out the Pegasus. It was good, but it could have been amazing if we had passed the Stubborn check. But it was a very close game. Nobody wanted to get too close to the enemy. Nobody wanted to be in charge range until Niklas said, we basically said, fuck it. I think it's 16 inches. Let's declare a charge. And that kind of made the entire game spiral out of control, because they charged us, we fled. Suddenly they were exposed. We charged them. They countercharged, and the game just derailed at that point. In the end, we won.
Yeah, when the dust settled,
I don't know if
we rode out into the sunset with a victory.
And this was the first time I have played 6 games of 6th edition in the last 15 years. They were all at tournaments. This is the first time my Pegasus were not the MVP.
It was the first game I played now that the Griffin Legion actually did some shit.
Oh yeah.
So it was a great third game, and it was a great all of the games were great. Like, I was so scared when we were looking at the list that we were gonna play some really harsh lists against some really tough opponents, but they were all amazing. Like, all the people we played were just great.
They were all super nice. Yeah. I think the thing in Poland, also when I was playing 40K, when I was playing Lords of the Rings, in my experience, you have hard lists, but very, very nice, friendly, fair players. So it's enjoyable,
Yeah,
I agree.
Also, some beautiful armies. I mean, the tournament, we haven't talked much about the tournament in general. Fantastic. I mean, it was very, very well organized. The TO was available at all times to answer questions.
Yeah, and the tables were exquisite.
The tables were fantastic.
Every table was like themed around some kind of area or whateverness. We had like Badlands, we had deserts, we had Araby, we had an Empire Village, we had like a swamp table, we had like everything, lava, snow.
The first game, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe we were paired up good against Evil 2, which I thought was very cool. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they did that. And then there were some beautiful armies. I mean, there were some really, really nice armies.
Yeah.
Obviously, Jimmy's armies are very nice. Niklas' army is very nice, but the Skaven army we played in the first game was incredible. He had all really, really old hammer, old metal models. He had some incredible movement trays. The Bretonians in the last game were also fantastic. It was, there's a lot of photos up, actually. You should check them out. Beautiful armies.
Yeah, it was awesome. This game player is known as Game of Travels on Instagram, if you want to look him up. It's a great army.
And then, I don't know, overall it was just a very smoothly run, nicely organized event. We all got a mug with the event's logo.
I'm so glad about the mug, because I was looking for a coffee mug as well. And this is exactly what I wanted. I love that mug. I'm using it all the time now. And then at the end, they had like they announced where everyone was placed. We're placed somewhere in the middle. I was happy. I lost.
Guess who's scared? Guess who placed last? Yeah. I'm proud about
Backstabber
it.
team.
Yeah, I'm proud about it too.
Yeah.
Although we did win, win one thing. We had the most models in our armies in the whole tournament.
I think we had some of the lowest count. I think, but I mean,
somebody had fewer.
I think it's pretty discriminating, not to count our horses.
Yeah, horses are people too.
Yeah, in Kislev, at least.
I heard somewhere horses don't exist.
And they also had like a lottery thing that everyone got a prize at the end. So yeah, it's a table full of awesome prizes. So they had some really cool terrain they were giving out, and some boxes of units. And like I was looking at, they had some army cases, and like, oh wow, that'd be cool. And then they were drawing the prizes, and we won the army cases. It's perfect.
Yeah, they're super handy. Yeah.
Surprise.
And it's I don't know. It was just heartwarming too. I was talking with Jakob, the organizing, and it's a game that has been dead. I mean, 6th edition. When was it? 15 years ago that 7th edition came out. And the game itself. I mean, Warhammer Fantasy Battles has been dead for a few years, and you have 32 people playing this tournament with beautiful, fully painted armies, fantastic terrain. It was so cool. It was so cool to see such a big showing for a tournament in, well, technically a dead game, right?
I agree.
Yeah, and they have tournaments like pretty often as well. It's awesome.
Yeah. And after the tournament, we grabbed some beers actually with some of the guys, with the Skaven player we played in the first game, and then Andre was there, and two or three other guys from the tournament.
Yeah, Andre was there with his teammate. Yeah, it was awesome. It's a great time. I'm so glad I went there.
Let's go again next year.
Yeah, probably. Like, I'm always down to go to Poland as well. It's affordable to go there, and it's really affordable to be there. It's just a cool place.
This time I think we'll stay a little bit longer, because our trip was like, well, we got there, hanged out the first night, and we were leaving around lunch on Sunday, so we didn't stay up late on Saturday.
Yeah, you seem pretty tired after the
oh god, I was like exhausted.
Yeah, because you guys left immediately. Like, you left early the morning right after, didn't you?
Yeah, we left around 12:30. I think our flight left. So we got breakfast at the hotel and went straight off to the airport. So it was kind of like when I go to 30K events in Sweden. It's like we also go home early on the Sunday. The funny thing is, this whole trip cost about the same I pay on the 30K events, and I went outside of Sweden, stayed at a hotel.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like, wow, this is really affordable, and it can be cheaper if I wanted to.
Yeah, Hugo booked us a really nice Airbnb, and like we went out to eat the day before. Went to a really fancy restaurant. And we're like, oh, we're getting the starter, we're getting this, we're getting that. And it was nothing compared to eating out in London.
The thing is, like, you have affordable plane tickets too, because, I mean, Ryanair, Wizz Air, there's plenty of flights to Warsaw, even to Poznan.
Yeah.
And then, because of the currency exchange, it is pretty affordable. And, it's a nice country, friendly people, fantastic nature. So if anybody's considering going next year, if you have the chance, don't just go for the tournament. Stay a little bit longer. It's a fantastic country.
Certainly will.
Yeah. And I am not sponsored by tourism in Poland. This is my actual opinion.
Yeah. So thank you for coming on, Hugo. It's great to have.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks.
And I don't know what will come up next in this episode, but thank you for listening to this segment.
Thank you.
Okay, can I hijack this for a second? Just 1 second.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Because I've seen lots of people playing 6th edition, on Facebook, right, in the UK and in Poland. I'm moving to the US. I'm moving to Southern Connecticut, in about a month. It's pretty close to New York City, about 40 minutes. And I'm just wondering if anybody around that area is playing Warhammer Fantasy. I don't care if it's 6th, 7th, 8th, even 9th Age, Mordheim, anything like that.
Scabhammer.
I mean, I'll take anything. I'll take anything. So yeah, if anybody is playing this kind of war game in that area, I'd be happy to find a club or a new community. So yeah,
just write to the podcast and we'll hook you up with Hugo.
All right.
Guys looking for guys.
All
right. See you later.
Altdorf Advertising Agency, the AAA is now hiring. Exciting times ahead. We represent everyone. Everything is fine, citizen. Remember, Altdorf Advertising Agency, the AAA. For all your anti-Ratman propaganda needs.
So, welcome back, and I hope you guys enjoyed that segment with Jimmy and Niklas and a special guest.
Hugo. And if you didn't like this part, I hope you at least enjoyed our Fast Attack Tactica.
Yeah, and if you didn't like that, I at least hope you liked us saying hello.
Yep.
Speaking of hello, we mentioned in the intro that we're doing a listener question special next time. We have put out a call on Facebook and on Instagram, and just going to mention it again. If you have any questions, that's basically regarding anything with the hobby, gaming. As I said, last episode, the chili plants that have now grown about twice the size as they were. Yeah. Anything else people could ask about, you two?
Anything goes? Anything Warhammer related or chili plant related?
Fair enough. There you have it. Send them in on Instagram, Facebook, email, pigeon mail, I'm not sure. And the episode after that will be our next army special.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this one. This is my favorite army. Yeah, the dwarves.
It's going to be short and concise and to the point. Enough about that. There will be the episode, I think that's 17, will be a dwarf special, as we mentioned, and me and Niklas will be, since I've played dwarves a lot back in the days, and Niklas now owns part of my dwarf force.
Yeah, dwarves were my first Warhammer love. It's what I started collecting Warhammer. So yeah, I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, so we're going to mention that if you have any questions about dwarves or anything you want us to talk about when it comes to the dwarves, send that in as well, since why not? And that's pretty much it, I think. Unless any of you have anything else?
Yeah, there's some events going on. So if you're interested in going and playing Warhammer tournaments, there's a couple events going on in England this fall, and there are some in Poland as well. I don't have the details in my head, but if you're interested in playing Warhammer in any of those places, just write us and ask, and I'll find it out.
Yeah, and hopefully there will be some in Sweden as well. We'll just have to see when that day comes. We got all the details.
Yeah.
So I'll say that's it for this episode, and see you in the next one.
Remember, everyone, stay square.
Yeah, that griffin has fucking magnificent balls sculpted on it. Balls and dick. Full frontal nudity.